In the middle of the temple, a huge dragon was sleeping, and opposite him, a girl with red hair was sitting on her knees, as if praying to the creature whom she called the Great Artel. It really was a prayer. The girl was sure that the dragon was watching over everything in existence, so she knew very well what problem she decided to come to her with. The father wants to marry the main character, and also for her to stop practicing alchemy because she will soon become old virgin. While the girl was talking about this, her hands seemed to tremble with great excitement, and she continued the story, saying that her father could wait no longer. At that time, bitter tears flowed down her cheeks, and the heroine herself rose from her knees. Looking at the creature, the red-headed girl with tears in her eyes screamed that she didn't want what her father was asking for at all. She didn't understand why she had to give up alchemy, and besides, get married at all. The Astane Empire was one of the strongest on the continent, and there lived a family, the O'Klein, which had authority since the founding of the empire itself. They lived up to the title of legendary alchemists and showed great skill in alchemy, passing this talent on through generations. Descendants naturally improved their skills for the family business. This allowed the family to maintain its reputation. Now the O'Klein family owns the largest alchemical workshop on the continent. The head of the family, Hames O'Klein, often visits the workshop, which causes all the guys there to begin to panic. But he does not come there to check the work. He has a completely different purpose for coming. A man comes there to see Rebecca. He often asks others to ignore him so that they do not get distracted from their business. Hames was the one all the workers looked up to. He used alchemy to create various types of weapons, which helped increase the military power of the empire, which is why he was nicknamed the founder of weapons. When he approached the fireplace, he saw her there, Rebecca, his daughter. She was sitting there in her long dress, wearing special glasses. This picture surprised the man. He understood that his daughter had inherited a high level of concentration from him, even too high, but she was his most precious treasure. Hearing her father's voice, the girl turned around. Raising her glasses, she immediately rushed to him, asking him about everything, what brought him here, as well as how he was feeling today. Hames wanted to discuss something with his daughter. He himself thought that he needed to try to be stricter with her. Rebecca beamed, saying that she was just going to visit him today, because this time she managed to create something truly amazing in the field of alchemy. She began to talk, but her father, putting his hand on her shoulder, interrupted her. Calling her by name and looking his daughter straight in the eyes, which immediately silenced her, he asked her to stop. But she didn't quite understand what her father was talking about. Hames explained that she should give up her alchemy studies. Having heard about this, Rebecca fell into a stupor, but still could not understand what he meant. But her father, bending slightly in front of her, began to say that she was already 24 years. Time flies, the girl interrupted him, thinking that they had complained about her again. After all, then she was sitting in a small nook behind the curtains. The girl thought that no one would notice how she was reading. The father was simply silent, listening to his daughter's apologies once again. But the matter was completely different. If she didn't get married this year, then she will remain an old maid. Rebecca listened to him attentively. Hames continued to say that until now he had allowed her to do whatever she wanted. But now the time had come to leave everything and start preparing for the wedding. Upon hearing about this, the girl began to scream that she did not want to get married. She clenched her hands into fists, but the man did not understand at all what his daughter was planning to do. The girl explained that she was going to continue working as an alchemist in the workshop. As before, Hames asked if a certain William would allow her to do this. This name made the girl freeze, and the man said that he told him something. Namely, that he refuses to take care of Rebecca after Hames leaves, especially since the man does not have much personal property. Even if he gives it to his daughter, it will not be enough for her to live independently. But Rebecca didn't care whether she was poor or rich. She wanted to do alchemy, because now she was happy thanks to it. It was her main occupation, and the most important thing. The man, unable to bear it, began to shout at his daughter, telling her to stop. After all, he made a promise to her mother. Now Hames generally regrets that he allowed his daughter to study alchemy, but the girl could not understand why her father was against it. But the man was interested in whether Rebecca really thought that she could make a normal living from this occupation, after which he gave the girl time to think about everything that she had done until today. Listening to her father, tears accumulated in the heroine's eyes because everything she did was worthless, and Hames said to forget about alchemy and focus on the wedding. The main character told Artel all this, sitting on her knees in front of her in the temple. The girl shared that she did not want to get married and did not want to give up alchemy, she just wanted to live the same way as now. Hanging her head to the floor, Rebecca realized that her father had never yelled at her before, but she understood one thing. Apparently, he always considered her a mediocre alchemist, judging by what he told her. The girl, looking at the dragon, always knew that Artel was the only one who knew the whole truth, and Rebecca was actually destined to become a great alchemist. This whole situation made the girl feel conflicted, but she was going to remain strong. Apparently, the main character was going to create something in the future tense, but obviously not now, because the time that the legendary O'Clane mentioned had not yet come. That is why Rebecca is going to continue to defend his legacy, as well as her pride as an alchemist, but she did not know what to do, and whether it was worth running away from home. While she was talking about this, someone stood behind and eavesdropped, and the girl begged Artel for help, and when I was wiping my eyes from tears, I noticed something on the floor. It was a blue scarf. Touching it, the main character raised her eyes to the dragon statue, and looking at it with admiration, asked if she had left her this scarf. The girl could not believe it. Holding him close to her and then inhaling his fragrant scent, Rebecca still clutched the fabric. It was very soft, but it was still unclear who could really leave it here. At the same time, the same man who had secretly eavesdropped on the main character was leaving the temple. Apparently, the scarf belonged to this man. A few hours before this man visited the temple, he was in a completely different place. There were many girls standing in the corridor, each discussing their own, until they noticed the presence of the Duke of Rovinster. After this, the ladies began to whisper in admiration, looking at the man, as if seeing some kind of idol in him. Carlisle Rovinster is one of the dukes of the Astane Empire, and he is also the first swordmaster to appear in the Empire in 500 years, not to mention his radiant divine face. But what many women liked most about the Duke was completely different. They didn't care that he was some kind of first swordmaster. They were interested in one thing: the Duke's body. The girls discussed how they wanted to snuggle up to a man at least once in their lives. Others said how tall he was. Others discussed his broad shoulders. Carlisle was clearly strained by such conversations out loud. The girls were saying that the dragon Artel had clearly bestowed all her love on him, while the man was trying to figure out how he could get through such a crowd of girls, even when he was frowning, causing violent emotions among his fans. In the crowd of admiring ladies, the calm voice of a girl who was behind the crowd was suddenly heard and addressed the girls. She asked what they were all doing here. This lady was Haley Cartius, the daughter of Duke Cartius. All the girls turned around at her voice, and Haley herself said that Carlisle was being summoned by the Emperor, and they should not keep him here. After her last words, they began to whisper among themselves, condemning such behavior of the girl, because in their opinion, she was no one to him, and if she had not been the daughter of a duke, then no one would have listened to her. But the man found a reason to escape from the annoying "I'll give it" while they're distracted. The Duke quickly walked away to meet with the Emperor, but something made him turn around and look back. There he saw Haley standing in the crowd. She stood and looked at the man with a creepy smile on her face, while everyone else was upset about his departure. This facial expression sent chills through Carlisle's entire body. The man found it a little creepy. After a while he was in the Emperor's office, bowed to him. The Duke greeted the Emperor, but he asked to leave all these formalities. He wanted to get down to business right away. Apparently, he had some urgent question or proposal for Carlisle. And so it was, the Emperor was interested in one thing. When the Duke was going to get married, having heard this, he opened his eyes wide, apparently not expecting such a question at all, but lowering his head, replied that he had no such plans yet. The Emperor, starting to cough, asked a question about how he should rest in peace if the no longer young Duke was going to settle down, while Carlisle apologized in advance for what he was going to say. The man remembered the words of the Emperor's attending physician that His Highness's only problem was that his health was too good for his age. He, having heard this, ordered the guy to remain silent, because according to him, with his age, no one knows what could happen tomorrow, and so he added the words that Carlisle's father was his close friend, and his mother was his dear sister. The Emperor talked about his youth with his father, but the Duke, apparently, was not particularly eager to hear about it. His Majesty noticed this by shouting and calling Carlisle a heartless guy. The same one made a strange argument, all because he is a master of the sword. The Emperor suggested that the guy had gone beyond the limits of human capabilities, but he still remains a man. The Emperor continued to talk about the Duke's father because he said that he was worried about leaving his son at such a young age, so he begged His Majesty to attend Carlisle's wedding instead of him. But the guy asked for forgiveness, because he had not yet met the one and only. His Highness understood how hard it was for him, because almost all the girls want to get him because they consider him a great catch. But if he continues to show so much patience with him, he will never see the end of it all. Carlyle asked for a little more time, and in the near future he would present to the Emperor the one he would definitely marry. But the man answered him with a cry, saying that he had already heard this countless times. The Emperor, rushing from his seat, told the Duke that his order would be next. He was obliged to marry within this year. This news struck Carlyle, but His Highness said that if he did not do this, he would force him to marry according to calculation. After this situation, the Duke went out onto the balcony to put his thoughts in order. Someone suddenly called out to him, forcing him to turn around. It was the Emperor. The Duke greeted him. Oberith Astane is the current Emperor, the son of the one with whom Carlyle was now talking. The guy immediately asked what his father told him, but he remained silent. Having supported the Duke in a friendly manner, he put his hand on his shoulder, after which he told the Emperor about everything that his father had told him. Oberith thought that if his father had gone so far, then his aunt had already surrendered to him. Carlyle did not understand his amusement, but he understood something else, that someday he still had to get married, but the guy agreed with him, saying that the Rovenstarovna family tree should end like that. And then he completely reminded Carlyle that it was really time for him to settle down, because he was already 28 years old. In his place, Oberith would have been courting Lady Haley long ago, because he considers her beautiful, but the Duke did not care. The young Emperor said with a grin that he very much doubted that this woman would let him marry someone else, because she was already acting like his bride. Carlyle did not want Lady Haley as a bride, and Oberith explained that if he turns this family against himself, it will only get worse for him. After these words, the Duke turned around and announced that he was going to leave. The guy asked if he was going to go to the temple again. He confirmed his guess, saying that there was the most comfortable place in the whole world. When Carlyle reached the right place, he bowed to the people in black cloaks, greeting them, after which he froze in the doorway, seeing something unusual. In the middle of the temple, a red-haired girl was sitting on her knees. Tears flashed in her eyes, and her cheeks were a little red, apparently from tears. Apparently, Carlyle had seen Rebecca somewhere before, because an image of her involuntarily popped into his head, where she, sitting on the floor with a book in her hands, smiled contentedly. Duke Rovenster remembered how 10 years ago, at a party, he tried to get rid of the annoying ladies who followed him everywhere. Hiding behind a tree, the guy didn't understand why he was being pursued, but he knew one thing for sure. He needed to hide somewhere for a while, and he immediately rushed inside the palace, and there he found the door to the pantry and considered this an excellent option. Going inside, Carlyle calmly exhaled because this was the ideal place to wait, but opening his eyes, he noticed something interesting in front of him, which he did not notice right away. A red-haired girl was sitting in front of him. There was a book in her hands. She was clearly captivated by it. The young Duke blushed, because he did not expect to meet a lady here at all, and she did not notice him right away. And when she finally paid attention, she squealed in fear, which frightened the guy. Getting up from her seat, she began to interrogate him, wondering if he had come here in search of her. But Carlyle silently shook his head, making it clear that this was clearly not what he was here for. The stranger's face looked very dissatisfied. It seemed that if the Duke gave a positive answer, she would eat him. But when the girl heard that he was not here because of her, she smiled, pressing the book to her chest. Seeing this lady's smile, the Duke's heart began to beat treacherously at the speed of light. Looking at her, he thought about how much she scared him. Besides, the guy did not expect that he would not be the only one who would think of entering here. The stranger sat back down, and with an even more thoughtful look, began to study the contents of her book. Carlyle didn't know what to do. Should he leave? He was afraid that this girl would attack him like others do. Suddenly, from her side, words were heard about what something formula. It was strange for the guy that the girl who came to the party was sitting in the pantry and reading a book. Although many ladies dream of getting here and spend hours preparing to look stunning, approaching her from behind, he looked into the contents of the book. The stranger did not notice his approach, but Carlyle understood what this book was about. It was focused on the study of alchemy. The girl complained out loud that it would not help her understand the formula. He decided to attract her attention by coughing loudly, but she did not turn around. Therefore, the young Duke made it even louder so that the girl would definitely notice him. She turned around and did not understand what he needed. The same one began to talk about a certain part in the formula. The guy, sitting down next to the stranger, pointed his finger at one of the parts of the formula and explained that the girl apparently had understood it incorrectly. She, lost in thought, lifted the book up and gasped in admiration, causing the Duke to shudder. With a smile, she turned in his direction and thanked him, saying that she had finally been able to decide. But he, looking at her, felt how quickly his heart was beating. After that, Carlyle again stepped aside and watched the stranger from there. He suddenly thought about what it was like for the first time, because she was not at all interested in him. He did not understand whether this girl even knew who he was, and then a thought flashed through his head. Red hair, alchemy. This could mean one thing. Perhaps she is a member of the O'Klein family. He assumed that the girl, like him, might not be a fan of social events, and also thought she was cute. When Carlyle looked at her in the temple, he remembered that day, and she was the only one he considered strong, and he hated it. The Duke overheard her indignation about the wedding. It brought a slight smile to his face. The man understood that the girl had not changed at all, and almost 10 years had passed since the day they first crossed paths. When he noticed Rebecca crying, he could not help himself. Frowning, quietly and carefully walked towards her while she covered her face hands. The main character did not see exactly how he put his blue handkerchief on the floor because the Duke did it extremely quietly and carefully so as not to attract her attention. And when she opened her eyes, she did not understand anything at all. Rebecca looked around in search of the man who lent her his handkerchief, but Carlyle had already left, a warm smile on his face as he went about his business. The man came to his mother, Adelgate Rovinster. She was the younger sister of the past emperor. The woman, noticing her son, was restrained. He bowed to her, greeting her. Adelgate said that now Carlyle looks much better than she expected, after which she added that she thought that her brother placed an imperial decree on him right away. The guy replied that formally he did it, but then the mother did not understand why her son looks like this. But the Duke did not understand either. He asked how he should look then. Apparently, the woman did not expect such a question at all, but tried to explain until Carlyle interrupted her. He suddenly asked what she thought about the O'Klein family. Adelgate shared her thoughts that they are a family with a long history. Moreover, the first O'Klein was a legendary alchemist, and also added about the former head of the house, Hames, who made a huge contribution to the development of the empire. These words made the guy smile. Apparently, he had his own plan, but the mother said that she remembered the existence of Hames's daughter, after which she suddenly understood what this whole conversation was about. Carlyle coughed awkwardly. He reminded the woman of the girl's name, Rebecca O'Klein, and her image immediately popped up in his head. The Duke announced that he was going to send a marriage proposal to this girl. Rebecca knocked on the room where almost all the members of the O'Klein family were sitting, and a guy named William allowed the girl to enter. The main character, clearly nervous, entered the room, asking if they wanted to see her. The main character immediately noticed how gloomy it was here, as if something had happened. But the girl couldn't understand what exactly happened. But she knew one thing. Obviously, the conversation would be serious, because not only William was in the room, but also his sister Judith, as well as his father and Locke were also here. Suddenly, the guy handed the main character an envelope, saying that she had received a marriage proposal, but Rebecca did not understand anything, because they all wanted to marry her. Why were they sitting with such gloomy faces? The girl mentally asked the great Artel if she really had no choice but to give up, stop doing alchemy, and just get married. Having opened the letter, the main character opened her eyes in shock. The offer came from the Duke of Rovinster himself, which, apparently, no one expected, so Rebecca was soon sent to meet him. On that very day, the main character got out of the carriage in a chic dress. She stood near the estate with her mouth open in surprise. The girl was delighted. After all, in her opinion, the Duke's estate was on a completely different level. The butler, who addressed the girl, said that his lordship was waiting for her in the reception room, after which he asked her to follow him. Rebecca followed the butler, and she thought about how much she was trembling now. It made her very nervous, but the girl tried to distract herself by looking at the beautiful interior, but she still felt uncomfortable, especially from such a chic dress. Finally, having reached the right place, the servants slowly opened the doors in front of the girl, inviting her to come inside. But the main character was even more nervous. In front of her stood a tall man who introduced himself as Carlyle Rovinster. He greeted the girl with a smile on his face. Rebecca, trying to introduce herself and look good in the eyes of the Duke, stumbled and stumbled, but he pretended not to notice and invited the girl to sit down and drink tea with him, which he himself had prepared. The main character immediately realized that he deliberately did not notice how she stumbled. It was cute for her. The girl tried to mentally calm herself down, and she answered Carlyle that she didn't mind drinking tea with him. It was clear from her how tense she was. This made the Duke grin. He didn't beat around the bush and asked Rebecca directly if she was surprised that he sent her a marriage proposal. She choked when she heard this, but immediately replied that she was really shocked by the proposal. The girl felt awkward but tried to explain that, in her opinion, she did not deserve such a great man as Carlyle. The main character tried very hard to control herself and not get nervous. Suddenly, the Duke laughed for some reason, but quickly pulling himself together, he apologized. He thought that he couldn't tell Rebecca that 10 years ago she completely ignored him to read her book. Apparently that's what made him laugh. The girl said that it seemed to her that she is unworthy to accept such an offer from him. Carlyle blurted out something strange. He announced that he was not going to marry the main character. Upon hearing about this, the girl bulged her eyes in shock because she did not expect this at all. Jumping up from her seat, she exclaimed in surprise and began to loudly question him about the purpose for which the wedding proposal was sent to her then. The girl almost lashed out at the Duke because he did not know at all what this was worth to her. After all, everyone kept telling her about one thing. William's wife, Judith, told the girl that it was like opening a gold mine, that she now had a chance to marry a member of the royal family, and William himself almost ordered her to accept this proposal, repeating that otherwise the girl will no longer be part of their family. The thought of how much Judith and William put pressure on her because of this brought tears to the main character. But only after a while the girl came to her senses and realized who she was now standing in front of and to whom she raised her voice, while the Duke looked at Rebecca in fear, but he calmed her down. Carlyle calmly answered the girl, saying that the main reason why he sent her a wedding proposal was that he knew that they were in the same boat. But the main character, getting nervous, asked the Duke again, pretending that she did not understand what he was talking about. He asked if others were pressuring her to get married. After that, Rebecca, gasping, apparently understood what he was getting at all this time, and then the guy added, he had the same situation. Hearing this, the girl immediately leaned closer to him, asking if his mother insisted too. He explained that in his case it is the former emperor. Carlyle said that now he is in a difficult position because he does not want to get married in the near future, and even worse that the one he is opposing is the former emperor of all the people. The main character was horrified because if it is difficult for her to go against her family, then for the Duke the situation was much worse. He smiled at the girl as if with some relief. Carlyle knew that Rebecca would be able to understand him because she was in the same situation as him, and after the Duke received an order from the emperor to marry, he felt completely confused, so he visited the Arthur temple. Hearing his words about the temple, the girl immediately became embarrassed because she understood that Carlyle had heard everything she was talking about then. But the guy explained that this was how he learned about the whole situation. After that, the main character put all the puzzles together and realized that he had left her his handkerchief, and the Duke confirmed her guess, saying that it was easy for him to remain unnoticed because he was a swordmaster, but admitted that he did not want to eavesdrop. Carlyle said that he thought that perhaps their meeting was most likely part of Artel's will. Hearing such praise from a man, the girl exclaimed in surprise, and he smiled at her. She couldn't believe her ears, because just recently she had sat in front of Artel in the temple and begged her for help, but not at all like that. Duke Rovinster turned to the main character, wondering what she would say about concluding a contractual engagement with him. From such a proposal, the girl fell into even greater shock, and her cheeks noticeably turned pink. The girl did not know how to respond to such a proposal. She even asked again to make sure of what she had heard. The Duke confirmed what was said again. She immediately thought about whether this meant simply pretending to be engaged. Carlyle explained that an engagement usually lasts from 3 months to 2 years, so he wants to be in a contractual relationship for 2 years. The main character clarified it by asking if he wants to avoid the pressure that marriage puts on him by arranging for this a fictitious engagement. The Duke confirmed her words, but she didn't think it was a good idea. After all, after the past 2 years they will break off the engagement, and the pressure will continue and will be even greater. Rebecca considered this only a way to delay the inevitable, but the man replied that she noticed everything correctly, but believes that in 2 years everything will be different. The main character immediately said that she didn't really understand the essence of the whole plan, but Carlyle decided to explain everything more clearly, starting with that very order of the former emperor. The Duke explained that in 2 years he would not be able to order him anything. including forcing him into an arranged marriage, after which the girl guessed what the man was talking about, the tradition of hatching, and he confirmed her guesses. This is a tradition that can only be found in the imperial family of Astane. The first ruler of the empire was the son of the great dragon Arthur. She was incredibly worried when he took the throne, so she stayed in the capital to look after him and all his children. Ariel continues to be the guardian of the empire to this day. In honor of her great motherly love, the imperial family created the tradition of hatching. This is the time when the abdicated emperor provides assistance during the reign of the newly crowned emperor. With this tradition, the former retains a portion of his imperial power, so it is impossible not to carry out his order. But Carlyle explained that all this would end in 2 years, because he would completely renounce his power. The girl was interested in whether the current emperor would put pressure on him to marry all this time. He was sure that no, immediately thinking that there is no point in ruining his relationship with the swordmaster over something as trivial as marriage. The Duke informed the main character that if they proceeded with the arranged engagement, he would ask her to stay here under the pretext of wedding lessons. This shocked Rebecca, from which she jumped on the spot. The man said that there was nothing to worry about because his family would be informed. He also said that while officially she would supposedly receive wedding lessons from his mother, in reality she would do whatever her heart desired. This surprised the girl even more. Carlyle even promised Rebecca to turn one of the outbuildings into her personal workshop. At first, the main character tried to digest what she heard, and then, realizing what was being offered to her, her eyes widened. A personal workshop. The girl was attracted by this offer because she had never had her own personal workshop before. But that was not all. The Duke began to say that when the contract ended, he would have something else for her, namely, sponsoring the main character for the rest of her life. Rebecca could not understand at all what exactly he was talking about. But all this already shocked her too much. Carlyle began to list everything that would await her. New housing, all the equipment for research, she will be able to choose any place to live, and he will also be able to take care of the girl's financial well-being. And she will do this until the end of her days. The heroine, opening her mouth, did not know what to answer. Everything sounded too fabulous and tempting. The Duke, trying to interest the girl even more, said that he could even, if she wanted, invest money in a large workshop. The main character thought that he wanted to use her alchemical skills for some purpose, so she warned that she did not know how to create things with any value, but he said that this was not necessary. Penetrated to the depths of her soul, the girl declared that the Duke, apparently, truly hated marriage. Since he offered her so many things, she sparkled with joy, because she understood that this offer was not just tempting, but very tempting. He was a little confused by this reaction, but coughing, he explained that all this would be included in the contract and none of this would be changed or cancelled. Rebecca replied that she believed him, and it was clear from her, but there was something that she was still worried about. The girl immediately calmed down, saying that now she is immensely grateful for such an offer, but she needs time to think about everything, which is what she asked the Duke. He was not against it, saying to come as soon as she made a decision. Moreover, his letter with the offer helped them both gain some time. Rebecca thanked the man. Carlyle answered her with a smile, kind and sincere. There was not a drop of anything bad in him. When the main character returned home from such an important meeting, she was immediately surrounded. Her father and Judith bombarded her with questions about how everything went and when the wedding would take place. But she did not want to talk now, so she replied that she would tell about everything tomorrow. Running up the stairs, the girl tried to hide from these annoying questions, and when she entered her room, she immediately closed the door, finally exhaling. But suddenly, there was a knock on the door. The door opened, and Rebecca's father appeared in the doorway. Going inside, he said that he knew how difficult it was for her now, adding that Locke was also terribly worried about her. The man understood how much all this was bothering his daughter. The girl just sighed heavily, but the father knew his child very well. Besides, she immediately went to the room and not to the workshop as she usually does. Rebecca wanted to say something, but the man interrupted her, asking if the Duke was a wonderful person. The main character confirmed this, saying that he was too good for someone like her. He tried to reassure the girl by saying that becoming a duchess would entail many responsibilities, but she would also be able to enjoy many privileges. Her father believed that there was no better family for marriage. Listening to all this, she so wanted to say that she really, in fact, she will not get married, but will simply enter into a contract. The man looked at his daughter with a smile, and she apparently was ashamed that this particular contract would be concluded in order to deceive both families. Suddenly, the father started talking about how he saw the girl's mother in a dream last night, who asked if she was happy, daughter. But Hames could not answer her question. After hearing him talk about his mother, the main character involuntarily pursed her lip. It was painful for her to think about it. The man talked about how many difficulties his wife went through because she was a noblewoman without an official title, and then added that when she visited his dream again, he would proudly tell her that their daughter would become a duchess and would be very happy. These words, they forced the girl to remain silent. She did not know what to answer. Her father said goodbye to her, smiled goodbye and asked her to rest properly, after which he closed the door and left Rebecca alone with her thoughts. She did not understand what she should do now, what to do. Sometime later, the girl decided that practicing alchemy was the best way to clear her head. When the main character entered the workshop, everyone greeted her in fear. She immediately realized that something had happened. With her mouth open in surprise, the girl noticed something that caused her such a strong reaction and misunderstanding of the whole situation happening around her. The girl, noticing something was wrong, immediately rushed to her workplace, but saw nothing there. Her desk simply wasn't there. Rebecca immediately began interrogating other alchemists. The same ones trembled in fear in front of her, but still said that her brother William ordered them yesterday to remove all the main character's things from here, because, according to him, she would no longer need them, because the girl would soon will get married. Then Rebecca decided to find out if at least her data was preserved. But the guys upset her here too, saying that William had thrown out absolutely everything. The girl, hearing about this, stood lost and upset, after which she was filled with wild rage towards her brother, and she screamed his name at the top of her voice. At that time, he was calmly studying the papers in his office and thinking that he would never have believed that his sister would marry the Duke. But on the other hand, this was a great opportunity for him, and someone was heard in the corridor loud steps. It was the main character who immediately opened the doors to her brother's office, quickly walked towards his desk, and asked him why he got rid of her things. The girl screamed at the guy. She was interested in one thing, where he threw everything. The same did not want to endure, and also started shouting, asking his sister what she was doing. She asked him the same thing. William explained that there is a limit to the girl's arrogance, with which he is not going to put up. Getting up from his seat, the guy pointed his finger at Rebecca, saying that now he is the head of the O'Clane family, so the main character should show respect to him. But the girl did not care. She was waiting for an answer to her questions, while the servants behind began to whisper. This angered William, because this girl had just humiliated him in front of the servants. The guy's face turned red with indignation. He began to ask about how her father raised her and what her problem was. Rebecca was annoyed by her brother's behavior, but he told her right to her face that she would soon get married, and it was time to give up her childhood dreams. That's what he called her work. Hearing this, the main character pursed her lip. He, noticing her reaction, grinned, asking the girl if she seriously thought about becoming a great alchemist. Apparently, William decided to take it out on his sister because he just screamed that everything she had ever created was just useless garbage, and the only reason there was a table in the workshop was his father. But Rebecca did not think so and defended her opinion. She shouted that it was not at all about her father, because she, like all alchemists, was tested. But her brother told her clearly the girl had not done anything useful in the field of alchemy, and no one would call her an alchemist. After all the words and humiliations of the main character, she was interested in what William created then. The main character decided to put the guy in his place, saying that he was here only because he was his son. These words infuriated him even more. The muscles on his face began to twitch, and he asked not to list him with people like her. William again tried to humiliate his sister, saying that at least he understands what is important, and all she is doing so far are stupid experiments. This made the girl laugh. She asked what he wanted her to do, perhaps a philosopher's stone, which could only be created the legendary O'Clane. He, turning to Rebecca, said that he was not an idiot who wanted to solve the ancient riddle of his ancestor, but was striving for real success, like their father, after which the girl understood what she was talking about, the development of weapons. But she was interested in something else, whether her family had succeeded brother, at least in one development. No, he failed dozens of attempts. These words made him settle down, but he could not understand how Rebecca was able to find out about this. But the main character explained immediately. Everything was clear from the wasted wealth of their family. The girl was amused by the impudence with which he criticizes her abilities, although he himself had nothing to do with it, has reached. after which, turning around, she was about to leave. But before that, she thanked him, because it was thanks to him that the girl realized that she didn't need to think about anything else. But William had absolutely no idea what his sister was talking about. Turning to face her brother, Rebecca declared that she was going to get engaged to Duke Rovinster, and also that she had a premonition that from now on, she would not regret any of her decisions. After these words, the main character walked away, loudly slamming the door in front of her. These words tensed the guy a little. He immediately wondered if his sister was going to leave their family after the engagement. Apparently, he was hoping for financial help from her after acquiring a new status. But William was sure of one thing. As soon as he married her, the girl will not be able to live like an alchemist, no matter how hard she tries. At this time, the main character went straight to her father. The man at that time was busy with books, but was immediately distracted by his daughter. As soon as he heard her voice, the girl rushed into the arms of her father, complaining about William, who replied that he was her older brother. But Rebecca didn't care because he got rid of her desk in the workshop. Hames, hugging his daughter, suddenly told her that she, in his opinion, was going to give up this business, saying that there was no point in being upset about this. But the girl did not expect this at all from her own father. He took her by the shoulders and looked into her eyes and said that she was getting married soon, so there would be no benefit from her inventions and data. But Hames did not justify his son either, because the guy threw out Rebecca's things without permission, saying, "About this," the man began to cough sharply. The main character took a step back, and the father continued to say that since this happened, she should make the most of this situation, because now she can focus on wedding lessons and the engagement. Rebecca wanted to answer something, but Hames suddenly started coughing again, and when he stopped, Rebecca decided to ask him a question that had recently begun to interest her. If she had not been part of the O'Clane family, they would have accepted her into the workshop at all. This is what worried the girl. The man was about to make some excuse, but he felt suffocated. After which he immediately coughed. Rebecca immediately rushed to him, worried about her father's health, and when the cough disappeared, the man asked his daughter not to be angry. He asked her whether it mattered whether she was an alchemist or not. After all, according to him, even without alchemy, she will still always be his precious daughter. These words forced the main character to rethink everything. Rebecca suddenly wondered if there had ever been a single moment when her father had truly recognized her as an alchemist. The girl thought about each member of her family and could not understand one. Did at least one of them recognize her skills? But it was stupid to even ask herself about it, because it was clear none of them considered her an alchemist until today. It was a blow to her heart, and this was the last straw for her. Rebecca definitely decided. She would sign an engagement contract and swore to herself that everyone around would see her as a real alchemist, which is exactly why the girl would sign the contract. The Duke, who was sitting behind papers, was suddenly distracted by the butler, who announced that Rebecca O'Clane had arrived. He did not expect her arrival at such an early hour. He thought that the main character made her decision too quickly, and the servants around were discussing whether she and Rebecca were really going to get engaged, because he always had an aversion to women. At that time, the girl was sitting in the waiting room and waiting for Carlyle to approach her. When he saw her, he smiled radiantly. Coming closer, the man bowed and greeted the main character. Wishing her good morning, she apologized for such an early visit, but he replied that everything was fine. There were bruises under Rebecca's eyes. She looked extremely tired, so the Duke asked if something had happened. The girl immediately looked joyful and replied that she just didn't get enough sleep. The man did not ask for any information, so he simply asked if the main character had had breakfast, but she replied that she had no appetite, so Carlyle suggested a joint breakfast, saying that he had not eaten yet either. After that, he moved on to the main question. The Duke suggested that the girl was here to voice her decision. Rebecca confirmed his guess, clearly and confidently saying that she was ready to accept his proposal to conclude an engagement agreement. Carlyle asked what made her make such a choice, because the last time the girl seemed very indecisive, so he thought that she would need a little more time to make a decision. The main character wanted to answer something, but quickly switched to the maids who brought breakfast. The Duke immediately invited Rebecca to try the essence from their chef, saying that this dish was known even in the capital. The girl, thanking him, began to have breakfast with pleasure, praising the dishes. Noticing the reaction of the main character, the man involuntarily smiled. Apparently, Rebecca aroused warm feelings in him. The butler, who had seen how the Duke had already had breakfast earlier, considered another breakfast strange. Apparently, the man deliberately lied to the girl so that she could eat in peace. and at that time he told her that as long as the contract was in force, he would consider her his person. It doesn't matter that this engagement will be fake. Carlyle promised the main character to treat her with the utmost respect. This confused the girl a little. Lowering her eyes to the floor, she thanked the man with a smile and promised to do the same. And then she started talking about how she wasn't sure how much she could tell him about her situation. It was clear that she was very embarrassed. But the Duke, trying to calm Rebecca down, asked her not to be shy and say whatever she wanted. He didn't even mind swearing from her lips. Hearing this, the girl jumped up from her seat and began to say that she would never dare to say such things in her life. Words before his lordship, such an address was too formal for him, so Carlyle suggested switching to names. When the main character sat down, the man said that he had a lot in common with her. They both did not want to participate in the life of society and wanted to have completely different things as a priority. Blushing, she still agreed with him. Now the Duke was ready to listen to Rebecca's situation, so after asking what exactly happened to her, he was interested in what made her make a decision so quickly, and without hesitation, the girl told the man everything. After that, they sat in complete silence. Carlyle, having analyzed the girl's situation, reacted in surprise, because since childhood she had dreamed of becoming an alchemist, and in the end they did this to her. Rebecca, with peace of mind, recalled the first time she and her father went to the workshop, and after that she could not imagine herself as someone other than an alchemist. When young ladies attended etiquette classes and learned how to make bouquets and embroider, the main character stayed with her father in the workshop and practiced alchemy. And at the age of 15, she passed the exam, like everything else, even receiving the highest score, which is why she will have her table in the workshop. She thought it was a privilege with the highest grade. Looking up at Carlyle, the girl admitted that she thought that her family really recognized her as an alchemist, but yesterday she managed to find out the bitter truth. Until now, no one had really seen Rebecca's talent in alchemy. The main character decided to turn to the Duke, asking if he also thought that she was nothing more than a joke. But he replied that no, adding that he knew very well about that she was the most passionate and hard-working alchemist in the world. This greatly confused the girl. She asked the man how he could know this, but he simply smiled warmly at her and then clarified his answer, saying that he understood this just by looking at her hands. The girl immediately did the same. Indeed, Rebecca's hands were proof of how much effort she put into her alchemy practice, after which he began to list all the scars on her hands, roughly guessing what they were from, and she confirmed his guesses. Carlyle also noticed her burn and a rather large wound on her thumb, but the most important thing that he managed to notice was the huge number of calluses on the girl's hands. Such remarks really amazed the main character. She could not understand how the Duke managed to see all this. But he immediately explained that this was his ability as a swordmaster. Laughing, Rebecca asked if it was hard to believe that these hands belonged to a noble girl, sharing that her daughter-in-law often scolded her for this. But Carlyle didn't think it was worth scolding for something like this, because he considered it a sign of hard work. This moved the main character to tears, because she had never heard such words addressed to her before. The girl was greatly touched, but quickly began to wipe away her tears, apologizing at the same time. Carlyle took a handkerchief from his pocket, stood up from his seat, bowed to Rebecca, and asked if the girl would accept his second handkerchief. Taking it in her hands, her cheeks turned pink, and she quietly answered thank you, saying that this whole situation gave her a firm determination. She vowed that she would force her family to recognize her as an alchemist. The man agreed with her determination and this plan, so he handed the contract to the girl. She carefully studied it, not missing a single detail. Carlyle was thinking about how it was possible to call this girl's dreams childish when she persistently strives for this. So he decided to share his experience with the main character, remembering the situation when he first took a sword in his hands, and the teacher said that he had never seen a child with the worst stance of his entire life. This surprised Rebecca, because the Duke is the greatest master of the Empire. But the man replied that it was true, but after that he continued to work hard and persistently, while never giving up, because those who give their all for what they love and do not allow ridicule to lead them astray, always achieve success. These words seemed to ignite a new spark inside the girl, Carlyle continued, saying that this is why he is confident that the day will come when Rebecca's efforts will be rewarded in the same way. The girl thanked the Duke, smiling radiantly at him, after which they both signed the contract, which meant a new beginning for the main character. Apparently, Carlyle decided to report the arranged engagement to his sister Charlotte and his mother. The girl was surprised by this, and her mother did not understand who he was following as an example when making such stupid decisions. The woman was sure that her brother, the former emperor, had known everything about this scheme for a long time, but the girl asked her to forget about her son. She was more worried about the lady because she would get absolutely nothing from this. After all, according to Charlotte, if Rebecca breaks off the engagement in 2 years, then it will be almost impossible for her to marry someone else. Then her mother thought that her daughter's words really made sense, and they both considered this proposal detrimental to the noble lady and suggested that Carlyle find another way, but he sat as if it was not his problem. And then he completely stated that the contract had already been signed. The women were surprised when they heard this. Charlotte remembered what the people called her, which the Duke heard about for the first time. The eccentric lady was the nickname given to Rebecca in high society. But in any case, of all the ladies, how could even one agree to such a proposal? The girl did not understand it at all. It even seemed to them that all this was a big misunderstanding. But getting up from his seat, Carlyle said that as soon as they met the main character, they would immediately understand everything. Mother and Charlotte were dissatisfied with the man's behavior and were even surprised that Rebecca didn't slap him. But then the sister suddenly thought that everything could be quite the opposite. And if Rebecca was deceiving Carlyle and not he deceiving her, after which the girl began to remember all the shameful cases with the ladies who were trying to get to him in one way or another, she was afraid that the heroine can be the same as these girls. But the guy, turning around, was clearly about to leave the room. Charlotte was interested in what her brother was going to do next. He replied that he would invite Becca to dinner in a couple of days and formally introduce her to them, after which he walked away thinking about that the main character is completely different from what they imagine. He remembered her on the first day of their meeting and thanked her for the fact that since that day, she had not changed at all. The thought of this brought a smile to Carlyle's face. Soon the news of the Duke's engagement began to spread. The ladies could not believe it, because they dreamed of being in the place of his bride, because he was everyone's favorite, who needed to be shared. But now one woman would get him just for herself. They did not understand what kind of lady Rebecca will get it. After mentioning her nickname as an eccentric lady, the girls began to understand who they were talking about, because she, in their opinion, did not know how to wear dresses, did not follow trends and was scolded for secretly reading at the ball. This surprised the ladies because they thought that this role will be given to a girl from the Cartius family. And then everyone began to discuss Lady Haley, who assured everyone that it was she who would be engaged to Carlyle, and if they were so upset, then how disappointed Haley should be, no one knew. Besides, this girl rejected all invitations to tea party, citing illness. The girl was at home at that time, standing by the window and watching the raindrops that were slowly rolling down the glass. At that time, her father looked in and asked why she didn't leave her room. The man noticed a lot of fragments on the floor, apparently. The girl was breaking the dishes in anger, and now slowly turning her head, she asked her father if he had heard the latest news. Haley said that Carlyle was going to get engaged, but not to her, but to Lady Rebecca. But the man was bothered by his daughter's condition. She continued to say that out of everyone he chose some strange lady of high society. The girl turned around and said that Rebecca had stolen Carlyle from her. Her look was crazy. Her father tried to calm her down, saying that apparently the former emperor had put pressure on the Duke. She briefly answered clearly, but could not understand why they had chosen not hers. The man suggested that all this is just Rovinster's plan, and he just wants to buy time until the hatching tradition ends. The girl went more and more crazy, saying that she could not accept this, and after this news, she became a big laughing stock. The father shared that he asked his mother, Adelgate, several times about this, but she wanted to leave the decision up to her son, so nothing can be done about it. The girl called the woman an ungrateful old shrew, being beside herself with resentment, because she once then, in her words, she defended Charlotte in high society. Haley told her father that he was obliged to break off the engagement. The man, with his head down, told his daughter that this was not in his power, because the O'Clanes had been on good terms with their family for many generations, and they were very useful. But the girl did not want to listen, shouting that they were just an insignificant count's house. Haley turned away from her father, and he replied that this family cannot be compared with other houses of this rank, and it would not even be surprising if they were elevated to higher ranks at this very second, because they produce all the weapons in the Empire, as well as improve and repair. They are all the same. But the girl thought differently. Their weapon was nothing without Cartier certification. The man tried to explain to her that they should not act so recklessly. But Haley, starting to scream, was furious because she was literally being told that she had no choice and she must give her beloved to another woman. Trying to calm his daughter down, the father even offered her to become queen in another kingdom. But she, screaming and crying, refused, standing her ground, because, in her opinion, Carlisle is the only one who can protect her. After all, if she wants to live her life, then for this she needs a duke. Listening to this, the man was unpleasantly surprised. He did not understand whether his daughter had still not recovered from what happened. The girl replied that it was her father's fault. Manipulating, Haley told her father that if he feels regret for everything, then he must do everything so that she can get Carlisle. Because if she takes this on herself, she doesn't know what will come of it. The man was shocked by his daughter. Turning back to the window, the girl thought about how Rebecca even dared to separate Carlisle from her. On the appointed day, the main character appeared at the meeting, which was organized by her future groom. The girl was noticeably tense. Trying to hold on, she bowed, greeting Adelgate and Charlotte. But in fact, her bow looked very ridiculous, and it was very noticeable how tense she was. She said that it was a great honor for her to meet them, having introduced herself. They responded with a smile, saying that there was no need to be so nervous. This did not help Rebecca, because she was very worried. The women said that they just wanted to see her face at least once before the engagement and get to know her better. And also, the mother said that the main character deserved an apology. This greatly surprised the girl, because she did not understand at all what they were talking about and what they were trying to apologize to her for. The woman explained that she knew about the deal and considered such a contract detrimental for any lady, so she apologized on behalf of her son. Rebecca could not understand at all why this deal would be disastrous. Apparently, she did not understand this at all. Charlotte and Adelgate looked at the main character in surprise. Looking at Rebecca in surprise, the women thought that she was protecting Carlisle, but the girl didn't even think about protecting him from anything. Scratching her head, the main character directly answered that she clearly didn't understand something and asked Madame Adelgate for forgiveness, without knowing why exactly. But she answered with a smile on her face that there was nothing to apologize for. Charlotte supported her mother, smiling just as radiantly at the girl. But the woman was interested in one thing, whether Rebecca was sure that she agreed to the contractual engagement. Looking down, embarrassed, the main character replied that she needed it just as much as the Duke, but she was interested in whether his mother and sister agreed to this. They, having heard this question, looked at each other in surprise, and then, looking at each other, smiled in unison. Adelgate answered Rebecca, saying that as long as the two of them were okay, then she had no doubts. Charlotte also agreed with her mother, without saying a word against. And then she came closer to the main character and, taking her hands, asked her to feel freer and call her simply Charlotte. She also remembered what her brother said about Rebecca's desire to continue studying alchemy. She confirmed this by asking if it could be done, but the girl was clearly embarrassed to ask such a question. But Charlotte answered that it was possible, and even asked to show them when she created something, and then started talking about reading a new book, and, oh miracle, Rebecca read it too. Adelgate was made to smile by the interaction of the girls. The same ones were overjoyed at having common topics of conversation and hobbies. They simply glowed. At this time, Carlisle was slowly approaching his mother. Approaching them, he greeted the main character, and after that, they spent the whole day with his family. They had a joint dinner, at which everyone got to know each other a little better. And after that, Rebecca had to go home, so she bowed to Adelgate and farewell to Charlotte. They, smiling, waved at the girl, after which the daughter asked her mother what she thought about the main character. Charlotte stated that the main character was definitely different from other noble girls, and it was very easy for her to determine what she was thinking about. The mother agreed with her daughter, saying that the girl was polite, but did not seem accustomed to such manners. Lotta also noted that she didn't have to be nervous around Rebecca, and the girl liked it. And Adelgate shared that she found the main character really unusual, and she really liked her. But one thing bothered the lady. Becky's makeup and hairstyle. She considered them not quite suitable for her image, and her mother agreed with this, saying that she needed a helping hand before the engagement. Carlisle, at the same time, was looking at the main character's carriage leaving into the distance. He looked calm and peaceful. A few days later, it was time for the engagement ceremony. Rebecca, who had arrived at the wrong place, watched as a huge number of servants were bustling around, and she felt a little awkward. Her heart was beating quickly, and she herself was thinking about getting engaged today. The girl noticed how gorgeous everything around looked, because the Rovinster family took on the expenses, but this upset her, because Judith, most likely, would be happy that they were able to save money, and she could spend this money on a new dress. The main character was suddenly in the crowd, measured Charlotte. The girl immediately came closer to her, noticing her elegant appearance. Rebecca said that her daughter-in-law insisted on this. She, looking at her makeup and clothes, replied that they really tried, but this is clearly not the style that's suitable for a girl. Charlotte, pulling her hand, asked her to follow her. Apparently, she had her own plans for the heroine. She clearly wanted to help her with the image. Carlyle was fully preparing for the event. The man was wearing an elegant suit, which he clearly did not consider particularly comfortable because he did not wear such things every day, but he himself understood that he needed to wait only one day. But the butler announced that his bride would now come down, and after a couple of seconds she appeared, Rebecca in her new image, which clearly suited her more than the one in which she had appeared earlier. Seeing the girl, the Duke opened his mouth in surprise. He could not believe his eyes that the main character was standing in front of him. Looking at her, the man said that he practically did not recognize her because now she looks like a completely different person. Smiling, Rebecca asked Carlyle if this was a compliment, but he seemed speechless in front of her beauty and could not answer even a word. Charlotte watched all of this from the sidelines. Finally coming to his senses, the man bowed to the girl, apologized, and explained his behavior by saying that he was too surprised, so he could not find the right words. But the main character told him that his sister had dressed her up, and she herself thought that I was shocked when I saw my reflection in the mirror. After all, after this, Rebecca realized that she really was very similar to her mother, but the girl did not know if she were alive, she would support her decision or not. Unexpectedly, Carlyle, taking the main character's hand, kissed her, which she did not expect at all, so she looked at him with a confused look, and her cheeks immediately flushed. Charlotte, watching all this, fell into shock. She could not believe what her brother was doing now. Kissing the girl's hand, he suddenly came to his senses and did not understand what he had done, because such an act was too much. Rebecca thought that the Duke apparently was used to this, because he was always popular with girls. The man was busy at that moment. The main character reminded him that they must have been waiting for them. He cleared his throat from the awkward situation. He suggested moving. After that, Rebecca, holding Carlyle's arm, moved with him to an important event for them, the engagement ceremony, which both families had been waiting for so long. There were a lot of people at the event. Rebecca's father also arrived, but was disappointed when he learned that they wanted to have a small celebration only for relatives. But nevertheless, the man still considered the ceremony wonderful. And at this time, the bride and groom appeared in amazing outfits. The father and brother of the main character were still discussing the formalities of the engagement. Finally, the time came for the main thing. They announced the beginning of the ceremony. Judith, sitting and watching everything, thought only about how much Rebecca's dresses and jewelry cost, apparently envying the girl. Hames crossed paths with Adelgate, asking her to take care of his daughter from that moment on, the woman smiling, assured that she would naturally take care of her, and at that time she felt guilty for the actions of her son. The little girl scattered flower petals and congratulated the couple on their engagement. Carlyle was calm and did not express any special emotions, and the main character smiled at everyone, at which time William approached the couple. He congratulated his sister and apologized for what happened in the workshop. She looked at her brother with a frown. The girl understood perfectly well that he did not regret what happened one bit. But she was not going to feel guilty. But she has another brother, Locke. On the day when the main character was informed that her desk had been cleared, the guy approached her with a box, saying that it was a secret from William. He managed to save all the data that Rebecca wrote down. The girl did not know how to thank Locke, because he had done the incredible. He apologized to his sister for being, in his words, such a bad older brother, because he could not stop William. After that, tears appeared in her eyes, and the heroine herself talked about how Locke is the best big brother. The guy, taking Rebecca by the shoulders, asked her to remember one thing. He always thought of her as a wonderful and talented alchemist and told her to never give up. This really touched the girl. Returning to reality, the main character noticed Judith heading towards her, giggling, approaching her. She asked Rebecca to remember that all this happened thanks to her. And a couple of seconds later, the father joined them, congratulating his daughter, and he asked Carlyle to take good care of her, and he promised to make her happy. When they were left alone, the Duke whispered in the girl's ear that he remembered something that he could not say earlier. Because it was so fussy, Rebecca turned around and asked what he was talking about. And the man finally announced interesting news. The annex had finally been completely converted into a workshop for the main character. Hearing about this, the girl simply beamed with joy, looking at the Duke with eyes full of admiration. After which the guy promised Rebecca that she would never regret agreeing to enter into this contract with him. She looked at him in confusion, not knowing what to answer. One of the following days, the main character nervously walked back and forth around her room. When the maid was putting things in order, it was noticeable that the girl was worried about something. Rosalind, Rebecca's personal maid, said that if she continued to walk like this, it would be difficult for her to clean up because of all this dust. She said all this with a smile. The main character was worried because apparently the Duke was late. The maid tried to calm her down. The girl also added that everything was completely different on the Duke's estate, but the heroine did not understand at all what she was talking about. Whirling around, Rosalind asked Rebecca to take a look at this room because it was filled with only the highest quality things that could be found. She suggested that the Rovinsterum estate was as luxurious as the palace. Their conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door, after which Carlyle appeared in the doorway. The main character reacted joyfully to his arrival. He asked if she liked her room, to which the girl answered yes, with a smile from ear to ear. The girl's face shone with joy. It made the Duke smile, and it happened on its own. He could not control it. Carlyle even thought about it because he constantly finds himself smiling next to the main character because he never had any reason to be so happy in the past. Rebecca looked at him incomprehensibly while he stood with a blush on his cheeks. But still he distracted himself from this and finally invited her to go right now because she had been waiting for him for so long. The man was going to show the finished extension because it was very close to the estate. He said that this workshop might be small, but the Duke believed that the girl would find it quite suitable. When they approached the huge building, Rebecca could not understand whether this was really the same extension and now her workshop. The girl thought that this place was more like a small mansion than an extension. But then the main character thought that Carlyle had renovated only one room as a workshop, but when they went inside, the girl's jaw almost hit the floor from what she saw. Her new workshop sparkled in front of her, which occupied absolutely all the space in this house. Rebecca could not believe what she was seeing now. For her, it seemed like something fabulous, spinning. She looked at everything around, asking Carlyle if this was all her workshop. He responded positively. The girl could not look enough and believed that all this now belonged to her. The Duke was wondering if she liked it. She, being excited, turned to him, saying that not a single alchemist in the world would refuse such a workshop. Rebecca looked at every detail with great interest. Her eyes sparkled, and a smile shone on her face. Such a reaction made the Duke involuntarily smile. He also told the girl that he had tried to equip the workshop with only the latest and high-quality equipment. Being delighted, the main character said that she now understands exactly why Carlyle is so adored by the ladies, but he thought that she herself did not even want to deign him with one glance. At this time, Rosalind overheard them. The maid did not understand where exactly the Duke knew about what exactly Rebecca prefers. She wondered whether this was right, because soon, in her opinion, the main character might go crazy. But on the other hand, the girl is already an adult. Maybe everything will be fine. This worried the maid for some reason. One day, the main character suddenly woke up in the early morning and did not recognize the ceiling of the room, only then realizing that she was now living with the Rovinsters. Before that, the girl thought that she would not be able to sleep in a new environment, but in fact it turned out the other way around. Only today she got up so early. Sitting on the bed, Rebecca thought that she should sleep a few more hours to go to the workshop. But then it dawned on her, now she has her own workshop, and she will no longer need to wait for the O'Clane workshop to open. Taking off from her place, the main character immediately wanted to rush there, but Rosalind suddenly stopped her, saying that she knew that she would do this. She did not understand at all what she was talking about. And then the maid took out some things, saying with a smile that these were now Rebecca's new work clothes. The girl could not believe her eyes and looked at the suit with delight. Taking the things in her hands, the main character looked at them, admiring how cute they were. But Rosalind didn't understand whether she should be happy that her lady enjoyed work clothes more than beautiful dresses. The girl kept praising the maid, because she even added more pockets for her. Unable to bear it, the heroine rushed at her with hugs, saying that she loved her. Having quickly dressed, Rebecca immediately got ready to leave, even refusing the breakfast that the servant offered her. The girl did not know what to do with her, because someone had to stop the madness of the main character. The heroine was in a hurry to try out her new workshop. At that time, Carlyle was walking along the corridor. He slowly wished her good morning, but she interrupted him, finishing his sentence for him. The man did not understand where the girl was in a hurry so early in the morning, but she explained that she woke up early, so she was now in a hurry to the workshop, after which she rushed off, without expecting any answer from the guy. Carlyle reacted to this calmly, even smiling. He was glad that the girl really liked everything, but something still disappointed the man. Having opened the doors to her new workshop, the main character still could not believe that all this now belonged to her alone. The girl was now sincerely happy. Edelweiss was sitting in her room at that time, telling the maid what needed to be corrected in the letter, and then asked how Rebecca was doing. She said that the girl spends all her time in the annex. The woman was surprised that this is all she does, but then the maid added that she was not entirely sure of this. For Edelgate it seemed strange that even the main maid did not know for sure. She thought that it was really strange that she did not leave her workshop. She was interested in this. Therefore, the woman decided to call the maid, who arrived with her from the O'Clane mansion. Edelgate asked her if Rebecca was all right, but the girl was a little scared and they tried to cheer her up. Her Highness said that she wanted Rosaline to be comfortable, but before she could finish speaking, the maid interrupted her, shouting her name, and then asking her to stop her mistress. Apparently, after talking with her, the woman decided to visit the main character. The maid notified the girl about the woman's arrival, but she didn't notice it. Being busy with some experiment that didn't work out for her, Rosalind called out to her again, but she again didn't pay attention. Then Adelgate decided to intervene in the matter, coming close to her and loudly shouting her name, which made her jump up and get scared, and when she turned around, Her Highness said that she now understood why her maid asked for help. The woman was indignant and in a raised voice declared that she needed to be reprimanded, although she understood the girl's passion, but such behavior was unacceptable for her. Rebecca, with her head down, listened to how Adelgate talked about how even Carlyle, who had ascended beyond human capabilities, was still sleeping and eating. The woman was worried about the girl, because even her face was drawn. She said that her mother would... I was upset to see her like this. The main character, hearing the mention of her mother, was very surprised, looking up. She asked if the woman knew her mother and answered positively, because she is sure that everyone in high society knows her. But for her, that was not the main thing. Adelgate stated that even if this is a contract engagement, then for her, Rebecca will always be her son's bride. And until the contract ends, Her Highness will consider the girl one of her people and part of their family. This confused the main one, a little heroine. And she ordered the girl's maid to report skipping meals and sleep to the main maid if this happened again. And the older woman asked to pull Rebecca out of the workshop as soon as she received the report. But the main character said that on the contrary, she needed to work more. But Her Highness did not want to listen to such speeches, so she immediately said that if she continued to be so stubborn, then she would completely forbid her to enter the workshop. And she said all this quite seriously. This shocked the main character, and she fell silent. During this time, Rosalind dragged the girl to eat and also sleep. Adelgate, watching this, really understood one thing. Rebecca's head was filled only with thoughts about alchemy. This even frightened her in some way, because such behavior is not entirely healthy. She remembered how Carlyle had also neglected to take care of himself when he was engrossed in sword training, so the woman came to one conclusion: there was no way to help such determined people as they were. After some time, the Duke and Rebecca crossed paths in the room. The girl was eating a sandwich, looking extremely upset. He said that he heard everything from his sister. The main character reported how Mrs. Adelgate scolded her and asked her to eat. Carlyle began to say that if she didn't want her mother to scold her, she could influence her. But the girl stopped him, saying that she didn't really dislike it. The heroine admitted that she reminded her of her late mother. It was nice. Rebecca finally asked what exactly brought him to her, and he said with a smile that he had come with bad news, which she did not expect to hear. Taking out an envelope with a red bow from the inside pocket of his jacket, Carlyle explained that they had received an invitation to the Crown Prince's birthday. At the birthday party, they were already discussing Rebecca's appearance at the party, because she so rarely appears somewhere and constantly rejects the invitations of all the girls. The women said that it was not for nothing that everyone called her an eccentric lady, adding that now, apparently the girl had a high opinion of herself, since she was the bride of the Duke of Rovinster. After conversations, they announced the exit of Carlyle and Rebecca, which attracted all the attention. A couple appeared in the hall. The Duke carefully held his bride's hand. She, in turn, smiled sweetly. Her outfit suited her and emphasized all her advantages. The girls around immediately began to whisper. No one could believe that it was she who was being called eccentric. and others said about her that she was a diamond in the rough and were surprised that there was such a girl in high society. But one thing was clear, everyone was shocked. The newly made couple congratulated His Highness on his birthday together. The little blue-eyed boy responded with gratitude, and his father congratulated Carlisle on his recent engagement, the same mentally praying that he would not say anything other than what was necessary today. But the Emperor did not say anything more, which surprised the Duke. After apologizing, Carlisle was going to go see his father. Oberyn was not against it, saying that in any case, their father had been waiting for them for a long time, so they could go to him, and he himself thoughtfully looked at the couple. Carlisle and Rebecca held hands cutely, and the young Emperor thought that together they looked much better than he expected. Dad looked very harmonious. When they were heading to the former Emperor, the Duke noticed how dissatisfied the main character was, so suddenly, whispering in her ear, he asked the girl a question about whether she was feeling bad. She, embarrassed, sharply answered him that she was fine, but he still stood his ground and wanted to find out what exactly was upsetting Rebecca. From the outside, they looked like a couple whispering sweetly. The main character answered that nothing bothered her, but Carlisle noticed how careful she is in her speech. Sharply raising her head at him, unexpectedly and even a little rudely, the girl asked the man to stop talking so much, which he did not expect from her at all, after which she added that she spoke little because she did not want to make mistakes. Rebecca said that his mother and sister chose this dress for her. But when she used a metaphor to explain how much she liked this dress, they laughed. While telling the story, tears appeared in the main character's eyes, and Carlisle advised not to pay attention to Charlotte. The girl added that Mrs. Adelgate called her a funny young lady. The Duke, trying to reassure his bride, said that he was sure that his mother had given her a compliment in this way, after which he asked whether the heroine behaved quietly, just so as not to say that something wrong. But Rebecca had something else in mind. If she made a mistake, it could reflect badly on the Duke's family. The girl looked a little confused and upset. Lowering her head, she said that she did not want to cause him any inconvenience, to which he smiled and thought that he was even a little touched by such an act, after which he thanked her for her concern. Carlisle didn't want the girl to be too bothered by this. She replied that everything was fine, so he suggested that they quickly finish it all and leave. They looked at each other, as if they really were a couple in love, and then headed to the former Emperor. Having finally found him, they bowed, greeting His Majesty, the same, being a little drunk, congratulated the couple on their engagement, asking if they liked his gift. But the main character apparently was not aware that they had been given a villa in the south. Hearing about this, Rebecca was very surprised, because no one had given her such gifts before. The Emperor was unhappy that his son had just told his bride about this. The girl bowed again, saying that it was a great honor for her. Suddenly the man asked Carlisle to bring him a glass of wine, as he suddenly felt dry in his mouth. This surprised the guy and tensed the heroine, but he, without refusing, went to get drinks, leaving them alone. Rebecca didn't understand why the father asked to bring his son wine if there were a lot of servants here, but he suddenly asked if it was too stuffy here, adding that it would be nice to go get some air, while inviting the main character to take a walk with him. She, getting nervous, blushed and stammered, agreed to His Highness's proposal, because the girl didn't have much of a choice. As they walked through the hall, people around were discussing how quickly Rebecca was able to win the trust of the former Emperor. After some time they already found themselves in the garden. The girl slowly followed the man, who was silent for now, and then unexpectedly called out to the heroine, which made her jump on the spot. And he was interested in the main thing. What kind of relationship Lady O'Clane had with his son? This question unsettled her, but still she answered, saying that they were obviously an engaged couple. The Emperor suddenly announced that he knew very well that all this is their little show, but he advised her not to worry. Besides, he expected this from his son. Turning to Rebecca, he said with a smile that he did not at all expect that she would take part in this scene, and today, when he saw the two of them, he was very surprised, which raised other questions in his mind, and the most important one, was there a girl? Knew Carlisle before, to which she answered clearly, no. The man could not believe it, but the main character, scratching the back of her head, reminded him that she almost never participated in social events. So that day after receiving the letter was their first meeting with the Duke. After these words, the Emperor apparently believed her. But still, however, one thing haunted him. The father thought that his son looked too loving next to this girl, which was not like him. Rebecca, noticing the pensive state of the former Emperor, decided to ask if anything was bothering him. He replied that he had never seen Carlyle look at a girl for so long, and also that he smiled like that next to them. So the man suggested, voicing this, that they may really be lovers. The main character, having heard this, immediately waved her hands and shouted a loud no, very embarrassed. But His Highness still thought that it was not worth denying it so categorically, but did not insist and asked the girl to take care of his son. Rebecca wanted to say something about how the Emperor misunderstood her, but she was interrupted by the arrival of Carlyle, who asked his father not to torture his bride. The guy held a glass of wine in both hands and looked more than calm. His Highness asked where he had been for so long, to which the Duke replied that he had to find his favorite wine, but did not say that they went out into the garden without warning about it at all. Taking the glass from his son, the man turned around and prepared to leave, saying that he needed to rest, and advised them to enjoy the night. The girl said goodbye to the former emperor in shock. The same thought turning to his old friend, that soon, perhaps, something might bloom in Carlyle's heart, because judging by his glances and fleeting smiles, which are often addressed to Lady O'Clane, something is certain will happen. After the Emperor left, the Duke asked Rebecca what his father was telling her. She, without hiding it, answered honestly. He perfectly understood that their engagement was a pretense. When Carlyle heard about this, he was very surprised, as if he had not expected this at all. The couple, spinning in a dance, discussed what the former emperor had told the girl. She did not understand what he would do after this, whether he would break off their engagement, but Carlyle asked her not to worry about it because he expected it. Hearing this, the girl exclaimed in surprise, and the guy, not expecting this, was a little tense. She was worried about one thing, whether everything would be okay, to which the Duke asked the heroine to trust him, and then, apparently, noticed how people around were staring at them. This is exactly what he told Rebecca, saying that they were being looked at as if a pack of hungry wolves. The girl immediately asked if it was because she was dancing poorly, stopping. The couple noticed that they were really staring at them as if they were ready to pounce. But when Carlyle looked at the main character again with a smile, he asked her not to worry, because he would sacrifice himself to protect the heroine at any cost. She asked if it was true, and the Duke confirmed it. Then Rebecca smiled broadly at the man, which looked extremely suspicious, and not in vain, because when the right moment came to the girl, she immediately slipped away, saying goodbye that she was leaving it all to Carlyle. And within a couple of seconds, the Duke was surrounded by a huge crowd, with whom he was left alone, while the joyful heroine ran away in the other direction to be alone with herself. And from behind came questions about where the Duke's bride was rushing to. Having found an empty room, the main character went inside, sat down on the sofa and exhaled calmly. The girl felt extremely tired because she had not spent so much time at such parties for a long time. Suddenly, other people's voices were heard. Turning her head, Rebecca saw a group of girls unfamiliar to her, who looked extremely unhappy. She could not understand how they ended up here. The same ones asked if she planned to read a book here, to which the heroine gave a clear answer. No, after all, he cannot behave as before. After all, now she is the Duke's fiancée, after all. This is exactly the answer Charlotte taught her when she was preparing for her exit. The girl gave advice that if someone tries to put her down, then let them remind her whose fiancée she is now. Such an answer outraged the company of girls, and one of them said that she refused to accept Rebecca as Carlyle's bride. But the main character did not really care, which annoyed this lady. She considered her arrogant and thought that she did not deserve his lordship. This was starting to bother Rebecca. And jumping out of her seat, the girl replied that it was up to the Duke to decide, and it didn't concern them. But this lady did not calm down. Now she was outraged that the heroine was pronouncing his name so casually. Suddenly another female voice was heard behind her, who asked what all this commotion was about. And this woman was Haley, with a fan in her hand. She looked at everyone with a smile in surprise, saying that she now understood where all the stars of the celebration were. The other ladies opened their mouths in surprise. The same one continued to say that all the bright flowers of the empire hiding in one room. Haley did not understand the reason for the argument, but the other girl explained that they could not accept Rebecca as the Duke's bride. The woman asked if they had any reason to complain about this, and then completely asked to leave her and the main character alone, but they didn't. Having started arguing, they walked away, simultaneously indignant at her impudence. Lady O'Clane swallowed nervously, not knowing what to expect. And the blue-haired girl smiled slyly, looking at her, after which she even bowed, greeting the main character, to which she had to respond in kind. Rebecca remembered Charlotte's words about this woman. She said that Haley is the one who should be feared the most because her obsession with Carlisle is very strong, and unexpectedly, Haley's tone changed, became cold, and she said that she wanted to give the main advice to the heroine. The girl looked at her incomprehensibly, but such behavior still frightened and tensed her at the same time. Haley clearly did not even ask, but ordered to cancel their engagement. Such impudence shocked Rebecca. She did not understand why she should suddenly listen to her. The woman smelled of coldness and hatred. Looking at the main character, she stated that the girl should know the answer to this question because she thought that Rebecca would be smart since she was an alchemist. But in the end, she called her the stupidest creature she had ever seen. This hurt the heroine, so she replied that it was rude. But Haley said that the only one who behaves rudely is her because she stole her position. Coming closer to the girl, Haley whispered in her ear that Carlisle belonged only to her from the very beginning, because this man was born to protect her. Apparently, she thought that this would help scare off his fiancé. But Rebecca, looking at her, declared that the Duke was not her property that she could possess. This infuriated the woman, so she asked to listen to her while she was still polite, as if threatening the girl with this, while the heroine carefully studied her face. And then the heroine said that she was not afraid of her at all. This shocked Haley. But the girl continued, saying that she could not do anything to her because she had no power. So the heroine advised her not to waste her precious time giving advice. After that, she went into a rage. And Rebecca also explained that all the girl can do now is wait until she leaves the Duke. With every word she said, the woman became more and more irritated, so when she was at the limit, she rushed to her. The main character did not understand whether she wanted to take possession of Carlisle or loved him. Haley, grabbing the girl by the shoulders, shouted that it did not matter, because according to her, she would do everything to get him. So Rebecca should leave him at peace until I regret it. Charlotte suddenly intervened in their conversation, pushing the girl away from Becky, ordering her to stop immediately. No one expected her to appear here. Haley immediately started telling her that she couldn't do that because she was the reason why the girl could hold her head high among the nobles, so she should repay her kindness. Even kneeling in front of her now would not be enough. The behavior shocked Rebecca, and the real inside of this woman became clear to her. But she could not be stopped. She continued to talk about the fact that people from the Rovinster house take her kindness for granted. But Charlotte decided to rebuff her and stated that she did not remember at all that anyone had asked for her generosity. Haley, grinning, suggested that the girl, apparently, wants to return to those days when she was mocked as a widow who had not even had her wedding night. These words pierced the lady's heart, but shouting that she didn't care, she dragged the main follow the heroine away. Charlotte led her by the hand, without looking back or stopping, without even saying a word. And then, suddenly stopping, she froze, and Rebecca asked her if she was okay. She quietly called her name. Without turning to her, the girl confirmed that Haley's words were true. She was once married the son of the Marquis of Lonarun, who has now renounced his title in order to retire to the village. There was a sad smile on Charlotte's face. Apparently, it was unpleasant for her to remember those moments from the past that she had escaped. But still the girl found the strength to say this, that Haley was really right, because Lady Rovinster was really a widow. Charlotte was talking about how she married the son of the Marquis of Lonaran, and after their wedding ceremony there was an accident. That day they were tired from a long day and planned to rest. But the killer suddenly burst into the room, breaking the glass in the room, and aimed at the girl's husband. He looks crazy, as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Charlotte assumed that the killer did not want her brother to pursue him, so he did not touch the girl, fearing the consequences. She recalled that at that time the Marquis had many enemies, but he was not a bad person, although he had ambitions, so the man was at enmity with many in order to gain power, and after that night, he did not want to let his son's wife go. For this, her family filed a lawsuit against him in order to annul the marriage. In the end, Charlotte's family won and she was able to return home, but during the process, their families began to feud with each other. The Marquis left the capital in strong resentment towards the girl, apparently due to the fact that his son was killed and she survived. But Rebecca, trying to support Charlotte, told her that it was not her fault at all, to which she silently smiled at her. And then she told the main character that she was right, but still it was impossible to stop people from avoiding her and calling her a widow. Therefore, not surprisingly, she became an outcast in society. Carlisle was very supportive of her at the time and told her that she was free to marry someone else when she recovered, or not to marry at all, because in any case he promised to support his sister and take care of her. But Charlotte was thinking that she didn't want to burden her brother at all. The girl wanted to be good at something. Just like Rebecca, the main character suddenly grabbed her hand and offered to return home together because they didn't need to stay in a similar place. She looked at her in surprise, as if she had not expected such an act at all, and then smiled and agreed to leave with the girl. One day, Charlotte was calmly walking around the yard, but suddenly she heard a rustling sound and someone's voice. The girl began to look around until someone's voice was heard from above again. Raising her head, she saw Rebecca there, who was hanging on a branch, after which she called out to her, from which she squealed in fear and almost fell out of the tree, taking off her glasses. She told Charlotte that she scared her very much, but the girl replied that everything was on the contrary. It frightened her. The main character instantly jumped from the tree, and she was immediately asked what she was doing there, to which O'Clane handed the girl a golden ball that had wings and sparkled beautifully. Rebecca explained that this is a weapon-type magical instrument. It is supposed to fly and attack enemies on its own, but the heroine could not get it to fly correctly. She also said that, by a lucky chance, this device got caught on a branch, and the girl was able to climb and return it. Charlotte was interested in how exactly the heroine climbed the tree. The girl shared that alchemists must be able to do this in order to obtain the necessary materials. Then she suggested that Rebecca also trained for this in order to collect everything herself. The girl confirmed her guesses, saying that she had completed courses in basic strength training. And then suddenly information came out of her mouth about how her father taught her to swim and climb, but only then did she realize that it wasn't worth saying. Putting her finger to her mouth, the main character asked Charlotte not to tell anyone that she had seen her in this position today, because otherwise Rosalind and Madame Adelgate would scold her for it. She agreed, but asked in return to drink tea with her in the greenhouse. Besides the girl, I've never been there before. The room was nearby. It looked extremely luxurious and huge. Charlotte explained that this greenhouse is the pride of the Rovinster family, and all the previous duchesses took careful care of it. They were about to head inside, but suddenly stopped. The chief maid was standing at the entrance. It was clear that Mrs. Adelgate had managed to get ahead of them, but the servants said that Her Highness was resting inside. But Charlotte did not lose heart, saying that she would show Rebecca the greenhouse next time. She did not understand why they could not go and drink tea with her mother. After that, the girl realized that her brother did not tell his bride a lot of things, so she decided, tell her yourself. The main character didn't understand what she was talking about, but she reminded her about her mother's illness, saying that a woman doesn't like to show her condition to others, so she rests alone. This is one of the rules of their family. They don't bother their mother when she is relaxing in the greenhouse. Smiling at Rebecca, Charlotte said that she really hoped that she would follow this rule, adding that their greenhouse was very famous, and the girl was about to leave, but the main character stopped, noticing something. Her attention was clearly attracted by something or someone because she peered carefully at one point, as if trying to see something there, and after a couple of seconds there was a loud boom. Something banged right inside the greenhouse. Black smoke immediately poured out, and Rebecca was terrified by such a sudden explosion and immediately rushed there, not knowing what to do. After all, just yesterday she was told not to get into any trouble. She promised herself, with tears in her eyes, that she would never create a single magical weapon again. The main character recalled how Carlyle told her that he urgently needed to leave because monsters continued to attack the northern border of the Empire, but he assured the girl that he was not going to stay there for long. Smiling, the man sincerely asked Rebecca to take care of the Rovinster estate during his absence. She, being joyful, promised that she would do everything perfectly and asked to rely on her, but in the end, everything got out of control. Standing with tears in her eyes, the main character could not believe that she had made such a huge mess around. Although she had promised her fiancé something completely different, the girl was very ashamed and embarrassed for this. Suddenly, Rebecca noticed Mrs. Adelgate, who was standing in a robe and with a towel on her head, and in her hand was the same ball from which black smoke was pouring out. The woman looked in surprise at the thing that was incomprehensible to her, and the girl exclaimed in fear, which attracted her attention. Therefore, Her Highness immediately went to her, holding the invention in her hands. She began to call her mother in fear, because she began to panic greatly, not knowing what reaction would follow when she was caught by the hand. And without waiting for this, Rebecca turned around, asked Madame Adelgate for forgiveness, and rushed away, afraid of the consequences of this stupid situation. The woman tried to stop her by calling her name, but she was too scared. Her Highness could only look after the main character, standing still and completely not understanding what was happening, because everything happened so suddenly and unexpectedly. But one thing was clear, that this was another alchemical miracle of Rebecca. In the morning, Edelgate was sitting at the dressing table, apparently getting ready somewhere. She was called by the maid, who noticed that she had woken up. The woman asked her to help her get ready. She also asked what wig Her Highness would choose today, to which she replied that she wanted the lightest one. Having prepared the necessary wig, the servants carefully decorated Her Highness's head with it, while she was thinking about the fact that she should probably create a business producing wigs, because in her opinion, they should not be so heavy and uncomfortable. The maid reminded that all wigs are made from natural human hair, which makes the hair look more natural. The woman grinned, saying that this was perhaps their only positive quality, and then asked how her daughter was doing, to which she received the answer that Charlotte had recently woken up. Having straightened her wig, Mrs. Edelgate asked to invite Rebecca to her to discuss yesterday, but the servant told her that the girl was already waiting for her, and that she wanted to convey something to Her Highness. The main character quietly waited for the lady to wake up, and when the woman approached her and wished her good morning, she jumped up in fear. But she quickly pulled herself together, bowed, and apologized for arriving to her so early, and Edelgate said that the girl shouldn't be so nervous. She looked up at her, and the lady continued to say that nothing could remain a secret forever, and she knew very well that the main character would someday find out about it, apparently referring to her illness. The woman began to talk about how several years ago she started having heart problems, but fortunately, her illness was completely curable. But in the process, the lady lost all her hair. Edelgate mentioned her reputation, which she constantly needs to maintain, and because of her hair, she began to feel quite insecure, which is why she has not attended social events for some time. But that was one thing, and Rebecca's dangerous experiments with magical instruments are completely other. But the main character suddenly interrupted her, shouting that the matter was completely different now. The woman was interested in this, so she was waiting for what the girl would tell her. Rebecca bowed and handed Edelgate a bottle, saying that she wanted to give it to her, because she prepared it to express her regret, so she hoped that the woman would accept it, after which she began to ask about what it is. The main character explained that this was a potion for hair growth. Such information shocked both the maid and Her Highness. The girl noticed the reaction and asked if she had offended her with this, but the lady could not believe that such a thing would even exist. Edelgate asked what kind of potion this was. Rebecca explained that it was created using alchemy and was capable of accelerating hair growth, but the woman still couldn't believe it, so she declared that such a thing could not exist, because otherwise it would be a miracle. The main character answered that it now exists. The girl shared that she was originally working on a potion for scars, but accidentally created it, and she had already checked that the potion worked and there were practically no side effects. But seeing how the mistress doubted, she offered to take it back. She sharply exclaimed, asking him to wait. Then she asked a question about how to use it correctly. Looking a little worried, she thought that it should be drunk. But Rebecca explained that the potion should be applied directly to the skin, after which the maid ran to prepare everything. Mrs. Edelgate asked the main character if she could trust her words. She replied that yes, but with a hint of doubt in her voice, because her hair could grow longer than she expected. Hearing about this, the woman laughed. Rebecca did not understand such a reaction at all, but did not ask questions, because the maid had already arrived and said that everything was ready. Taking off her wig from her voice, Edelgate asked if the main character would do her the honor of applying her potion to her skin. She agreed, and began to apply it, gently rubbing it over the woman's bald head. Rebecca became interested in how Her Highness felt from applying the potion, which she asked about. She replied that it was as if something sticky was being smeared on her head. Now all that was left was to wash it all off. The woman thought that she was too excited. After all, he doesn't believe in the existence of such a thing at all. But unexpectedly for everyone, after a couple of seconds, graceful, long and blonde hair appeared on the woman's head. The lady looked at it in shock. She could not believe that there was so much hair on her head again. The maid, coming closer, looked in surprise at every strand on Edelgate's head, while she still could not come to her senses, because she could not even think that she would ever see her hair just once. At this time, Rebecca joyfully looked at Her Highness, and the woman realized that this girl was a real miracle. Soon, Carlyle also returned. The butler met him, asking if he should prepare a place for him to rest right now. But the man was in no hurry, so he told him that he could take his time with it. The Duke assumed that everyone was already in their bedrooms, but the butler reported that Madame Adelgate was still awake in the living room. This surprised the man, so he decided to visit her first, knocked on the door, and then went inside, announcing his return. The woman greeted him very cordially, with a smile on her face and, naturally, with new hair, which was her joy. She greeted her son, and he looked at her head in surprise, asking if she had dyed it. But she did not answer his question, but only said that Rebecca was truly an amazing girl, which the Duke did not understand at all, why the dialogue suddenly switched to her. Adelgate did not stop praising the main character, saying that she was absolutely incredible, while she was again sitting in her workshop creating her next miracle. One day, Her Highness decided to thank Rebecca, which she told her personally, because according to the woman she gave her life back. The girl replied that they didn't overload, but naturally she was pleased. Madame decided to clarify how long the effect lasts. The main character explained that it all depends on the person, but in general, about 10 days, which amazed the woman. Rebecca felt guilty that she had created such a short-lived effect, but Adelgate, on the contrary, was surprised at how long it would last, because she expected something completely different. The girl assured her that more potions would be created by then, so there was no need to worry. The woman, sitting at the table with the rest of the family, was very happy about this news, while the brother and sister were a little tense. And then Edelgate began talking about the great alchemist O'Clane, and how sad she was about his resignation from the title. And then she said how wonderful it was that his daughter turned out to be such a great alchemist. These words struck the girl to the very heart, because no one had ever told her this. The woman wondered why the heroine's talents were still not known throughout the world. Rebecca, embarrassed, asked not to flatter her so much because she did not deserve so much praise for a failed project that should have been related to something completely different. Adelgate was outraged that the main character called her creation a failure because she created, in the opinion of Her Highness, something amazing, and the woman was unhappy that the girl was lowering herself like that. The lady believed that this was the best potion she had ever seen in her life, but Rebecca really didn't think so, and tried to prove it from an alchemical point of view, saying that it was not even a magical instrument, but a banal thing that, and it won't last long. Such words angered the woman. Edelgate wondered if the girl thought that she was humiliating herself too much. Perhaps the main character really believed in this. She replied that such words had always been told to her, that her creations were useless. Having heard about this, Her Highness immediately stood up with place and began to scream, not understanding who could say such words, because they are meaningless. Rebecca explained that her father and brother said so. Then the lady calmed down when she heard the words about her father, adding that a genius like him would really keep the bar high, while the woman called him her son's father-in-law, which the main character did not understand. But she still tried to convey to the girl that she had created something magical, calling it a dream potion for Her Highness. Rebecca, blushing, asked if she really thought as she said, because this was not even a magic weapon, much less a philosopher's stone. Adelgate explained that she was not an alchemist, and their values may differ. After all, a general who is preparing for war will naturally desire more magical weapons, which he will need in further battles. And the poor man, who does not even have money for food, will accordingly want to receive a philosopher's stone, which can create gold from anything. But Adelgate explained that she did not need any of this, because the only thing she wanted was to get her hair back, which is why this potion is the most valuable and useful thing in the world for her at the moment. These words touched the main character to madness. Traces rolled across her eyes, and the woman told her with a smile that many would agree with her words, asking her to believe her. After that, Rebecca began to cry, and Madame rushed to calm her down, while the two of them talked, completely forgetting about the presence of two other people at the table, Carlyle coughing, trying to attract attention, but was ignored. Charlotte, who was watching all this, was at a loss, because they didn't even hear them, so the girl decided to attract attention by asking if they had forgotten that she and her brother were also here. The woman, turning to her daughter with a smile, asked to quickly start breakfast, but that was not what was important to Charlotte now. Having risen, she indignantly began to worry about the fact that her mother should have reported that she had fully recovered. After all, she and Carlyle had no idea that their mother was now completely healthy. They were terribly worried about her, and the woman didn't even bother to tell them about it. Edelgate explained that it was all for their benefit. She thought that people would probably make fun of them if they found out that she was bald, but Charlotte did not care at all about who would say what. After all, the girl was very afraid that her mother might suddenly fall again. The woman, smiling, asked her children for forgiveness for deceiving, but now she wanted to discuss something more important. Charlotte did not understand what could be more important than this. Carlyle tried calm my sister down. Edelgate turned to Rebecca, again praising her invention. She thanked her for the 100th time, not understanding what she was driving at. And then everything became clear when Her Highness suggested discussing the business plan for its commercialization. The main character, hearing this, involuntarily shuddered, and then, when she realized it, she was indignant. Rebecca didn't understand what kind of business plan the woman was talking about, but she replied that it would be a shame if she were the only one who knew about such a magical remedy. Therefore, she invited the main character to release her potion directly to the market, guaranteeing that it would be in great demand among all the inhabitants of the empire. The girl doubted that anyone would want to buy her product, but Edelgate asked her to believe. After all, according to Her Highness, this potion can change the lives of many people from their continent, and Charlotte also agreed with this, saying that people would be willing to pay any price for it. Rebecca was surprised that even she agreed with this. She smiled at her and asked her to call her by her nickname, Shah, and then offered to be friends. This behavior confused the girl, but she decided to ask if she really thought her potion was valuable, and she gave a positive answer. Charlotte was clearly delighted, because this is a potion that helps a bald man restore his hair. The girl even said that she could kill someone to get such a potion. This phrase confused Rebecca even more, and Adelgate smiled, saying that the potion and the truth will succeed. Then the main character turned to Carlyle, asking if he thought the same. He looked at her in surprise, as if he could not understand something. And then he finally decided to ask if she was seriously planning to keep the potion only for herself. The girl just realized that, it turns out, she didn't have such an option at all if she wanted it. Lowering her eyes, Rebecca said that it seemed to her that she was not quite sure yet, because she did not know whether something like this would be sold. But immediately there were indignant exclamations that said that it needed to be sold. Charlotte was indignant, saying that this potion should not be known only to her mother, to which the woman smiled, saying that she knew that her own daughter would understand her, after which they began to discuss the production of a magical remedy, down to the smallest detail. That's all. Rebecca was shocked more and more. Her head was simply exploding with chatter on this topic. And then they inquired, asking if the main character had any other potions, to which she replied that she didn't think so. Edelgate immediately began to dispute this, saying that she did not trust her judgment, after which she added that they should inspect everything themselves. Rebecca, getting up from her seat, timidly answered okay, while she herself could not fully understand what exactly was happening right now. The women, sitting at the table, laughed terribly, as if they were thinking through some terrible plan to destroy the world. That's exactly how it looked in the main character's head. In fact, they quietly giggled while Carlyle wondered if anyone was going to have breakfast at all. A few days later, at the Rovinster estate, Mrs. Adelgate decided to introduce Rebecca to someone, pointing at the man. The woman said that this was Tyler, their family lawyer, as well as the second son of the Baron, Lord Largo. In honor of the greeting, he bowed to the main character, to which she responded in kind, saying that she was pleased to meet you, while Madame talked about how if they had any legal problems when setting up a business, he could take care of them. And next Adelgate introduced another person, Olson, who would manage their company. When Rebecca wanted to greet him, he immediately interrupted the girl. And he immediately began to praise her and the fact that she was able to create a truly magnificent potion, after which he took off the beret from his head, saying that he too had lost half of his hair at one time. That is why the man so sincerely admired the creation of this potion and the fact that it exists. He was wondering what the main character called this magical remedy. Rebecca replied that she had not yet given it a name and wrote it down simply as a means for hair growth. But the three of them began to praise even such a simple name, saying that usually the simplest names are the best, and Tyler suggested using the heroine's name as a brand name. All this confused the girl a little, and she called out to Her Highness. Rebecca asked if they were really going to sell this product, to which she gave a positive answer, because after something like this, the woman was not even afraid to tell people the whole truth. Adelgate explained that she was going to tell everyone that it was the main character who was able to help her restore her lost hair after an illness. She was even going to return to high society. This amazed Rebecca. She felt proud. And the woman simply beamed with joy because any action she took would be an excellent advertisement for a hair product. The girl was very pleased to hear this. She responded to Her Highness, calling her amazing. but Adelgate believed that only Rebecca was amazing here because it was a great joy for her to find and invest in new areas of business, after which the woman was distracted by her partners, discussing alchemical workshops. Now they clearly had no time for the main character because they were too keen on discussing all the details that could help in any way. The girl could only watch this in silence. One day, when Rebecca was sitting in her workshop, Carlyle came to her, knocked, he went inside. The girl immediately approached him, wondering what brought him here at such an hour. He reminded her that today they didn't even say hello. She apologized, saying that she was too busy. He replied that he understood, because the girl was working on the greatest invention of their time. Such a comparison embarrassed her. Rebecca invited the Duke to sit on a chair in an area she didn't use, after which they just sat in silence, not saying anything, which was quite awkward. But the main character suddenly spoke, congratulating the man on his return. He smiled and thanked the girl. After that, they started talking. Rebecca asked him if he was injured, because tracking down monsters is not easy, but the man reassured her, because he is a swordmaster. And then, clearing his throat, asked her to put aside the greetings. After all, he is here to sincerely thank the girl. After that, she did not understand what he was talking about, especially since the man began to talk about it so harshly. Carlyle explained that Rebecca was able to return freedom to his mother. The main character, embarrassed, lowered her head, saying that she would not call it so grandiose. But the man thought differently, because if it weren't for her, he wouldn't have known that his mother felt better. He admitted that he always felt fear, but it seems that their mother does not understand what her children went through. But he changed the topic, saying that now Adelgate is completely delighted with the new business. All this worried the girl, so she decided to ask the man if everything was okay, which he did not understand at all. Rebecca admitted that she was afraid of tarnishing the reputation of the Rovinsters, which greatly surprised Carlyle, because he had not thought about it at all. The girl was obviously very worried, and then she even started saying that if people found out that she was still doing alchemy, they would start calling her a strange lady again. The Duke, rising from his seat and bending over the main character, put his hand on her shoulder and looked into her eyes, saying that she shouldn't worry about it at all. Carlyle believed that even if people continued to speak ridiculously about the girl, they would simply envy her wonderful invention. Such words sank into Rebecca's soul, but the man continued, saying that if they bothered him, then he could do something with them to do. But she stopped him. The Duke switched to another topic, saying that now he was more worried about the family of the main character. He was interested in whether she was afraid that her family would find out that she was still engaged in alchemy, after which the girl suddenly became thoughtful. But she still answered this question, saying that just the thought of what her brother and father would say gave her a headache. But Carlyle told her not to worry, because she and her mother would protect her. Rebecca was interested, so the girl directly asked the Duke if she could really succeed, to which he said that she would certainly, but that was not all, after which Carlyle said that it did not matter to him whether she succeeded or not. The main character did not understand at all what he was talking about, and this caused a sincere smile from the man. But he explained the meaning of his words, saying that he would always support her, any of her alchemical undertakings. Hearing about this, the girl burst into a smile. Such words were very pleasant to her. Suddenly, an explosion thundered in the room, causing Rebecca to fall forward. From fear and surprise, black smoke billowed around, which is why the main character began to cough. Raising her eyes, the girl noticed that she was lying right in Carlyle's arms. He, full of surprise, carefully held her. They silently looked at each other, afraid to move again. One day, the main character entered a store known to her, greeting Mr. Bischutz, whom they had not seen for a long time. The grey-haired man with a moustache asked her not to speak to him so formally, because after all, Rebecca is the future Duchess. But the girl replied that she was not a Duchess yet, so she asked him to treat her the same as always. The girl recalled that he is even friends with her father, who is formerly a count. The man recalled how Hames always wanted people to treat him as an alchemist and not a nobleman. The main character added that this is no different from her father. After that, he agreed, and then asked to be allowed to be frank, because at first, when Mr. Bischutz received an offer from the Rovinster family, he could not believe it. The main character didn't understand why, but he explained that, firstly, he was worried about the fact that Rebecca continued to practice alchemy while living with the Rovinster family. Smiling, the girl shared that her fiancé and Madame Adelgate supported her in every possible way. The man considered this wonderful because he thought a lot about the fact that her talents could go to waste. Bischutz dreamed that Hames would be as free-thinking as he was. Rebecca noticed how much the owner of the workshop had changed, to which he replied that he had to keep up with the times. But the girl did not understand something. The man recalled that he was now completely done with the development of magic weapons, but the heroine knew about this, and even that Bischutz had converted his workshop exclusively for personal business. He believes that alchemy in its current form has reached a dead end for him, because everyone is investing money exclusively in magical weapons, so there is no more progress in this field. And as it seems to him, they will miss out on many wonderful opportunities during this time. Mr. Bischutz also regretted that he did not realize this earlier, because by the time he realized everything, his workshop was mired in debt due to failed projects. Now he uses it to receive orders and make ends meet. The man also added that he needs to pay off all debts before death if he wants his son to take over the workshop. The main character said that she could help with this. The girl asked if Mr. Bischutz could produce her hair growth product. He happily shook her hand, saying that he did not think that friendship with her father would help him so much in the end, after which the man asked if the product really worked. Rebecca answered yes, but first they would need to pass several safety tests before launching it, and then the heroine mentioned her father, hinting that he should not find out about it. He was surprised that Hames didn't know anything yet, after which the man thought that he had sent Rebecca to the Rovinsters to take lessons for brides. But if he found out about alchemy, then there would be a lot of noise. He didn't have to think for long, because Bischutz immediately answered that he wouldn't tell her father anything, because he couldn't indulge his friend's personal feelings when he himself was about to die from debts. But unexpectedly, the girl apologized. The owner couldn't understand why reason she apologizes. Now the girl must give it her all, and if it is a hit, then even the father will not be able to say anything. Agreeing with him, the girl smiled and was ready to act, because if this remedy really becomes successful, then her brother and father will finally recognize her as an alchemist. Besides, she always wanted to help people through alchemy. Suddenly, Rebecca remembered Carlyle's words that it didn't matter to him whether she succeeded or not. This made her soul warm. It was pleasant to remember this. The girl sat thoughtfully while these words echoed in her head. A blush adorned the heroine's cheeks, which Mr. Bischutz noticed, wondering what had happened. But she immediately began to change the topic. After all, after that incident, Rebecca was terribly ashamed that she had so clumsily fallen on him, and then even more clumsily kicked him out. He ran away, wishing good night. The heroine understood that she had created a big mess, without doubting that it was completely indifferent. At this time, Mrs. Adelgate decided to attend one of the frequent events that is held in narrow circles. When women saw her, they opened their mouths in shock. They clearly did not expect her appearance, because the woman had not been seen at the event for a long time. The lady smiled and greeted everyone. One of the ladies left the table, bowing to her, saying that she had not been seen at tea parties for a long time. Adelgate asked if they really always left a place for her, waiting for her to come. She confirmed this, because she had made a promise. Her Highness thanked the woman. Sitting down at the table, Madame remembered that several years had passed since she announced her retirement, which is why she thought that now it was worth announcing her return to high society. Hearing about this, the women exclaimed enthusiastically with one voice. They were glad to hear such news. Such reactions made Her Highness smile. But raising her hand, she said that she wanted to confess something, and she didn't mind at all if other people knew about it. Adelgate reminded everyone that she left high society due to a heart condition and did not leave the house to fully focus on her health. But now she explained that she is now completely healthy. There was one thing: the loss of all hair due to the side effects of the drugs. This statement shocked absolutely every lady sitting at the table. One of them advised to leave it all between them, but the woman asked not to worry about it. After all, Mrs. Adelgate's hair had already grown back, which she reported. This made the women gasp in admiration. They were happy and thought that the loss of hair was a temporary side effect, but everything was not so. And Her Highness explained that absolutely all the hair was lost, after which she put the bottle on the table. And she didn't waste much time saying that her son's fiancée, Rebecca O'Clane, created this potion that helped restore hair. It amazed each of the girls. Adelgate immediately explained that the potion had no side effects, and application was extremely convenient. Just smear it on the head, and not take it orally. The girls couldn't believe that such beautiful hair was really created with the help of the potion. The women began to think that now their sons and husbands would be able to gain hair, become more beautiful and, in general, live happily. So they immediately asked if the lady could ask her daughter-in-law to share with them. She smiled, asking if they really thought that she came here empty-handed. The maid took the miracle remedy out of the box and dictated the instructions, saying that if she wanted, she could buy more. She was surprised that it was for sale at all. Today is a special day, because today a store will open on the main street and the first sales of a potion will begin, a remedy for hair growth from Rebecca, which should surprise people and create a sensation and a huge stir. On the opening day, this happened. A huge crowd of people jostled and shouted, and a couple of minutes later it was announced that all copies were sold out. People were asked to wait until the product was back in stock. But people began to scream even louder. People asked to help them and give them the remedy. There were a million questions about when the potion would be available again, begging to reserve at least one, promising to pay 10 times more. Charlotte, standing next to her, gasped in amazement, saying that they really hit the jackpot. The girl did not expect such a reaction at all. After she saw what people were doing with her own eyes, she went to her mother. The maid and Edelgate met her. The woman had recently returned and was about to head to the Rovinster store, inviting her daughter to go together. She, smiling, asked if she was aware of what was happening. She didn't understand anything, but Charlotte explained that they didn't have time to talk because people were about to start rioting for this hair product. The woman, hearing about this, exclaimed in surprise. She did not expect that people would start going crazy about it so quickly. Suddenly, the butler intervened in the conversation, saying that he had a message from Mr. Olson. The woman, taking it, read it out loud. The potion was sold out in an hour. When Rebecca was told about this, the girl could not believe it, but Charlotte tried to convince her of this because the main character asked about it again. And when she was told that there was not a single bottle left, she began to stutter. It was still difficult for her to believe it, because about 700 bottles were made. Shah immediately began to congratulate the main character on such an incredible success. Taking Rebecca by the hands, she asked if she had entered into a contract with her mother, and if so, how they agreed on the division of profits, to which the girl replied that they would do it 50-50. Charlotte noticed that this was too much. The main character thought that the girl was talking about her, but she meant her mother, saying that Rebecca should get more, to which she replied that this was a lot for her. Charlotte, hearing this, grinned, thinking that the heroine does not have the qualities of a businesswoman. But in any case, all this will be her condition. This surprised O'Clane. She did not understand what she meant. Charlotte explained that all this money would be all hers when she married Carlyle. Such information made Rebecca jump. She thought that she was not suitable for such a position, after which the girl began to say that all this was too prestigious for her. All this put the heroine into a stupor. Her head was spinning, and she herself did not understand anything. But Shah thought that they still had a lot of time to discuss everything. Carlyle met with his mother, who stood surrounded by gifts. He asked what all this was, to which she replied, "Bribes from the nobles." The man thought that all these gifts were sent to him, but Madame Edelgate immediately explained that all this was not sent to him at all. Noticing Rebecca next to him, he asked who exactly they were addressed to. Coming closer, Carlyle bowed to the girl, congratulating her. She did not understand at all what to do with all these gifts, but the guy said that first we need to celebrate success, and suggested that we simply get rid of the gifts. Then Charlotte joined in, and stated that it was impossible because there are also letters for her. This angered her, because just recently everyone was calling her an unhappy widow. Her brother still insisted on a party, but only in a small circle, when everything had calmed down, after which he said goodbye to Rebecca, saying that they would see each other later. And the girl was thinking about that they see each other for the first time after that incident. She felt awkward, but calm, because she thought that Carlyle really didn't feel anything then, and there was no need for her to be nervous. But when the Duke just turned away, he immediately blushed. He was terribly embarrassed. Although no one noticed it, he was slowly walking along the corridor when someone very quickly ran up to him. In front of him stood 3 guys who were arguing with each other, trying to win Carlyle's attention. Each urgently wanted to talk to him. The same one was significantly surprised by such a fuss. The man asked what exactly was happening here, to which they began to talk about a miracle potion, which they managed to snatch in small quantities. The argument became even louder. Suddenly, one of them asked the Duke to help, because his son could not get married. But then someone's fist flew into his jaw. Everyone had their own problems, and they were trying to attract his attention. But this behavior only made Carlyle laugh. They did not understand his reaction at all, but the man apologized, wiping away tears of laughter. The gentlemen again continued their topic, saying that the Duke was Rebecca's fiancé, so they suggested that he could get them some potion. He was surprised, although he knew that it was popular, but did not think that it was so popular. Suddenly, Carlyle was distracted by a man who said that everyone was ready for training. He considered this a good opportunity to avoid talking to these people. So, running away, he shouted that he would discuss this with them later. The crowd began to fight as the Duke moved away, and the man who had come to report the training noticed that Carlyle had been in a good mood lately, and he laughed in response. And in his head, there was an image of 3 women, his mother, his sister, and Rebecca, who looked very happy together. Perhaps this made him happy too. One day, Judith returned to the family mansion, where the butler met her. She immediately asked where her husband was now, to which he replied that he was in the office, after which the girl went up the stairs. Suddenly, Locke scared her, which made her suddenly jump up. He also asked where the girl had gone. She said that she had been at a reception in the garden, but the guy looked a little nervous. Whispering to each other, they apparently discussed Rebecca, and Locke said that it was not worth telling William about her now. Judith recalled how at the reception she was surprised by such information, because she was the only one who knew nothing. The guy suggested that his brother probably wouldn't be happy if he found out such news about his sister. But the girl said that she could deal with it herself. But then Locke added, saying that his brother had failed another project to create a new weapon. This angered the woman. She opened the door to his office, being very angry because Lady Rebecca, meanwhile, is getting richer every second while he fails his next project. Having flown into the room, the girl saw William sleeping on the sofa and began to scream, because now was not the time to sleep. Hearing her, the guy opened his eyes irritably. Judith, being indignant, began to talk about how his sister was gaining insane success while he was sitting in the office and drinking after another failure. William could not understand her words, thinking that he was already drunk, but the girl explained that Rebecca had invented a remedy for hair growth. She also added that now this wonderful invention is being sold in the Rovinsters store and is gaining unreal success. People are begging for the opportunity to get it. The guy could not believe everything his wife said. He started shouting about how Rebecca should focus on her wedding lessons. William couldn't understand what she was even doing there. It annoyed him. He grabbed his hands into his hair, not knowing what to do. Judith shouted back, saying that it doesn't matter now, because the entire batch of this potion is sold out instantly. Even the nobles asked to get a bottle, trying to calm themselves down. The guy said that he doubts that this success will last, because such a lousy potion cannot compare with the new weapon. The woman was furious, because this man had recently brought down his project again. She was interested in how much he spent this time. William, clearly nervous, asked his wife not to worry, starting to talk about how his next project would definitely be successful. But Judith got tired of listening to this, pointing her finger in his face. The girl asked if he knew how many times he had already repeated this. She told him that it was worth doing something that would really sell. This outraged the guy, because his wife invites him to become a low-grade alchemist. William shouted that he was a descendant of the great O'Clane, who once created the Philosopher's Stone, and also the son of Hames, the father of weapons. The girl had to listen to all this irritably. He continued to say that he would never stoop to such a level. Judith was tired of listening to all this. She said that her husband only spends without earning a cent. These words angered the man, but the girl turned around, saying that she should visit Rebecca. Leaving, Judith said that William had clearly lost, after which he shouted at her that she did not dare to talk like that. He was annoyed by the fact that his sister was practicing alchemy even on the Duke's estate. The guy's teeth were grinding with anger. He didn't know what to do. Sitting down at the table, William picked up paper and pen, starting to write his angry letter, after which he asked the butler to send this letter to the main character, saying that this girl needs to be brought to reason. When the letter reached the addressee, Rebecca calmly read it. Her brother ordered her to quit alchemy. Rosaline approached her, wondering if everything was okay. She replied that the text was not as angry as she expected to see it. The girl thought that all this was apparently not enough for William to recognize her as an alchemist. While flipping through the papers, the heroine came across a letter from another brother, Locke, in which he praised his sister and said that he and other alchemists had studied her remedy for hair growth. The guy shared that it amazed them. He did not understand how Rebecca came up with such an extraction of sunrise petals, and also added that many alchemists were inspired by her work and thanked her for it. The main character noticed that Locke, as always, was kind. Rosaline supported her, saying that the Lord was always kind even to the servants, and at the end of the letter, the brother signed the following, not to take William's words to heart. The girl, trying to distract herself from all this, began to think about what she should do next, turning over various ideas in her head. Rosaline was worried about her lady, because she knew very well that her brother was unlikely to stop at just one letter. The girl could not understand whether everything was really in order. As Rebecca says, she had a feeling that something terrible would happen. At this time, girls gathered for a tea party, among whom was Haley. They sat in a small group and whispered about their own things. One of them turned to the girl asking if she would allow this to continue. She, turning to a lady named Regina, asked what she was talking about. The woman replied that she was talking about Rebecca because she had heard the news but did not think that Lady O'Clane might be a fraud. Haley, looking surprised, asked about it, wondering if Rebecca was really a fraud, and she immediately began to assent. After this, the girl asked Regina if it was her family who made money from the production of wigs, but she replied that their business was not so shaky that the main character could influence it, jumping up and adding that she could not allow her to continue like this act. The other ladies immediately began to agree with her, saying that they never liked Rebecca and in general, how dare she steal Lady Haley's place by taking advantage of the imperial family. Regina also did not understand how the Duke's family could insist on this engagement only because they were against the unity of the two families, the Rovinsters and the Cartzius. The girl said that Carlisle simply had no choice and had to submit to the imperial family. Such arguments made Haley smile, and then, putting on a sad grimace and shedding a tear, she said that she also could not do anything about it, after which everything began to feel sorry for her. She even said that she wanted to live in peace for a while to heal her broken heart. Regina agreed with her, and then added that she would definitely teach Rebecca a lesson for her. Haley pretended that she did not understand what the lady was talking about. The girl reminded that in a few days St. Marcetina's Day would take place, and Rebecca was obliged to attend the service in the temple. Having heard about this, Lady Cartzius, looking unhappy, said that she did not want to overwork Regina, to which she replied that she was too soft-hearted. Therefore, she asked her not to worry, because she would make sure that on that day, Lady O'Clane would run away from there in tears. Others, having heard about this, began to giggle contentedly. Mentally, Haley rejoiced at this wonderful opportunity, pleased that Regina was finally able to be of some use to her. The girl swore to herself that Rebecca would soon find out what it was like to take her place, apparently contemplating a plan of revenge. Several hundred years ago, the Empire experienced a catastrophe. An evil witch cursed the northern lands. The curse froze everything under endless snow, causing people to suffer terribly, not knowing what to do or where to go. But then the priestess Marchetsina appeared. It was she who sacrificed her own life in order to destroy the witch's curse with holy power, and it was lifted. But the priestess herself died right at the scene of the battle. It was in her memory that this day was created. On this day, the entire empire and the capital organize a grand celebration, and in the main temple the saint herself blesses the imperial family and nobles, and in other temples the priests and priestesses bless the people. Carlisle and Rebecca sat in the temple, saying their hands for prayer. The girl thought about how much time had passed since her last visit to the temple. The entire Rovinster family was present. They sat together, waiting for the start. Besides them, there were also many people in the temple. We didn't have to wait long, because within a few seconds a saint appeared, with a huge staff and dressed in golden clothes. A saint. A person who was chosen by the goddess Artel herself. Even the emperor himself cannot order her, since she is the support of the entire empire. The woman began her speech by saying that everyone had gathered in the church today to honor the memory of St. Marcetina, and the saint blessed everyone. Everyone watched her with great delight, especially Rebecca, who was suddenly called out by Carlisle because she did not start praying because she was too busy looking. Closing her eyes, the main character began to pray, like everyone else sitting in the temple. Opening one eye slightly, the girl remembered the great Artel. And at that time, she was looking at Carlisle, thinking about what he had said about their meeting, mentioning that their meeting was Artel's plan, and if this was true, then the girl sincerely thanked her for this, because she is happy every day. The heroine promised to work harder from now on. After this, people gathered to celebrate. Charlotte was indignant that her mother was still missing, and her brother had to go guard the emperor. The girl did not understand that her mother could discuss it with the high priest for so long, because they could no longer wait for her. Rebecca suggested waiting a little longer because she was sure that Madame Adelgate would return soon, but suddenly someone interrupted her, not allowing her to finish. Turning around, they saw a blonde in a green dress. She called the main character by name. At first, the girl did not understand who it was, but still greeted her, to which she smiled. After that, Rebecca whispered to Charlotte if she knew who it was. She explained that this lady's name was Regina, and she even sent her a couple of invitations. but the girl intervened in their conversation, saying that she had long wanted to discuss a lot of things with the main character. But unfortunately, Rebecca declined all her invitations, which prevented her from having the opportunity to meet. But the girl had an argument. She was very busy, but thanked her for the invitations. This outraged Regina. She asked how busy she must be if she didn't show up to a single meeting. Charlotte immediately intervened, saying that it was her personal business whether to attend meetings or not. But the lady did not want to listen to her, because she was here to talk specifically with Rebecca. Turning to her, the girl said that she was giving her the opportunity to improve. The main character did not understand at all what she was getting at, but the answer was not long in coming. Regina mentioned some kind of scam that the heroine is allegedly pulling off. After that, everyone around began to whisper, and the girl grinned, realizing that a beginning had been made, but Becca still stood her ground because she never deceived people. Regina mentioned a remedy for hair growth from Rebecca, hinting that this was a deception. Charlotte was immediately indignant, but she stood her ground, saying that even magic and holy power will not help get rid of baldness. The main character joined the argument, asking why she thought that alchemy was not capable of something like this. The girl had a stupid argument. Alchemy is only used to create weapons, and something like this cannot help people. This was the last straw. Rebecca explained that it is not necessary to be a magician or a priest, because anyone can use a magic lamp that was created by alchemy. It is in this room that the lamp was created using this. Regina asked not to change the topic, but the girl continued, saying that anyone can enjoy these amenities. Then she added that this is precisely the power of alchemy. The heroine stood by her truth, knowing that she was right. The girl asked not to look down on alchemy as something inferior to magic or power, because thanks to this, everyone lives much more comfortably. Charlotte realized that Rebecca really loved her work very much, and was very dedicated to it, probably the biggest alchemy fan on the entire continent. But Regina seemed to ignore all this, saying that the girl was still trading in deception. Because of her, there were countless victims. This the main character could not understand, because there was not a single victim. Not knowing what to say, the lady gave out stupid nonsense, saying that it was because of this potion that it was now impossible to know who was bald and who was not. These words made Rebecca fall into a stupor. She explained that she did not understand at all what she was saying, but Regina continued, saying that no sane man would marry a bald girl, and baldness can be inherited. No one would want to marry with such risks. The last thing she said about this was that baldness is a defect. These words shocked the main character. And then the girl added that now bald people would enjoy the same privileges as people with hair. But Rebecca did not consider that bald people should be discriminated against. According to the girl, in Artel's eyes, everyone is equal. Such statements made Regina laugh. She asked her not to pretend to be so complacent after she stole Lady Haley's place, adding that she had no right to talk about equality, and she would agree with her only when she will marry a bald man. Then suddenly, Regina addressed everyone in the room, asking everyone if they wanted to marry a bald man. Turning to face Rebecca and Charlotte, the girl continued, asking the people if they would be ashamed if their child was bald, after which people joined the wave, shouting that bald people should be gotten rid of. All this stressed the main character. The situation was getting out of control, and she did not understand at all what to do, while Regina grinned, pleased with herself. But not everyone thought the same. Many, on the contrary, came to the defense of bald people, saying that no one should be driven away because of this. The crowd was divided into two camps, and this promised a long and furious argument, and no one knew how the situation could end. Regina began to shout at Rebecca, blaming her for the fact that her potion caused such a mess. She said that the main character was dividing all the nobles and the whole conflict. Because of her, the girl did not know what to answer. But suddenly, one of the women noticed that the only one who separates people is Regina, but shifts all the blame onto Lady O'Clane. The other girls joined in, saying that the main character is their savior. And one of the girls remembered that she knew this lady because she was from the Bryant family, who produce wigs, and they are designed to hide baldness. Regina called it shameless in her opinion. It is thanks to her family that they live a normal life. But that girl replied that these wigs are expensive, uncomfortable and funny. Other people supported her, saying that they would never buy wigs from them again. And all her words about the potion were envy because their business was failing. This outraged the young lady. She tried to answer something, but it turned out badly. Regina continued her attempts, talking about the side effects of the potion, because it was not even certified by the House of Cartius, the main character, and Charlotte silently watched as the girl drowned herself. This was watched from the side by Haley, who hoped that her friend could win this debate. But Rebecca suddenly announced that her drug had no flow effects, and she knew this because she herself shaved her hair, which she told them about. When they heard about it, everyone around fell silent in surprise. The main character repeated that she shaved her head to test her potion because she could not release it without trying it on herself. And she did this not just once, but 5 times, which shocked the people even more. Everyone began to whisper, and the girl continued, saying that there were definitely no side effects in her potion. Regina silently thought that Rebecca was crazy, because, in her opinion, an adequate girl would not do such a thing. The heroine mentioned certification. She understood that it was customary for alchemists to make it from the Cartesius family, but her product was already certified by the House of Rovinster and was now sold in their store, so she was interested in whether there was a reason why she needed to obtain an additional certificate. To which Regina replied that of course, because the House of Rovinster and Cartesius cannot be equal. Hearing this, Charlotte was interested in one thing: why? She intervened in the conversation, saying that both families had the title of Duke. The girl asked to explain to her why they could not be equal. This made Regina tense. She could not give an answer. Charlotte grinned and asked if she dared to compare the value of the 2 duchies, thereby challenging House Rovinster. Regina stammered that no. The girl who was in her company apologized for her, saying that she had misspoken, and Rebecca noticed how intimidating Cher could be while the lady was trying to justify her friend. Then, Charlotte was able to cling to this excuse, suggesting that Regina did not trust her family because they only knew how to handle swords, to which the girl began to deny. And then she even bowed, apologizing for her words and asking her to forgive, while Lady Rovinster talked about how her whole family used Rebecca's products. So she wondered if Regina still believed the potion had side effects. The other girl nervously replied that she didn't, even adding that she had trusted them all along. People began to approach Rebecca, who wanted to talk to her about her drug and praise her, until suddenly a familiar voice was heard, which said that there had not been such excitement in this room for a long time. It was the saint who said that everyone here was captivated by an interesting conversation. The woman sincerely smiled at the people around. Still, they began to explain to her that they were talking about a hair product that Lady Rebecca had invented. They were about to start explaining what its meaning was and how to use it, after which she sighed languidly, and then she answered that she knew everything about this remedy. The main character, having heard this, opened her mouth enthusiastically because she did not at all expect that the saint would know about her potion. Stuttering, she asked the woman how she knew about it. She explained that it was precisely this that helped her temple. After all, in their orphanage there are a lot of children who have no hair. If the mother ate little during pregnancy, then the child most often loses hair from malnutrition. The saint said that just recently they received an anonymous donation in the form of Rebecca's potion, and it is thanks to him that the children now have hair. The girl, hearing this, was overjoyed, and Regina opened her mouth in surprise, realizing that at this rate the heroine would conquer everyone, so I decided to intervene. She stated that the potion only lasts for 10 days, asking if it would be disappointing for the children when their hair suddenly falls off after these days. Sviatya explained that the children know about this, but they want to feel what it is like to have hair, no matter what, only for 10 days, because it is thanks to Rebecca that they smile again. With each word, the main character became more and more happy. Her heart fluttered. She thanked the woman for such kind words, saying that as soon as production stabilizes, she will try to send donations regularly. She thanked her, saying that the children will be happy, and she herself was sincerely grateful for the help and desire, saying that in gratitude she would tell the girl the prophecy. Hearing about this, all the people were surprised, because not everyone is able to receive a prophecy from the saint. Even the emperor rarely succeeds. But Lady O'Clane succeeded. The woman shared with Rebecca that her potion would soon become a great boon for the entire empire. She listened to her every word with admiration, while Regina in the background fell to her knees in disappointment, and Haley silently walked away. The main character, smiling, thanked Her Holiness. The saint, coming closer, whispered in the main character's ear that she sincerely wished her all the best in her chosen path, and also not to be shy about turning to her for help when it was needed. But that was not all. The woman even asked the girl to visit her someday. All this was something incredible for the heroine. She could not believe that all this was happening to her. And when the saint left, Rebecca could barely stand on her feet. Shocked, Charlotte had to hold her to prevent her from falling. Cher addressed her, saying that she was probably surprised when Regina suddenly attacked her. But it was still great that the saint took Rebecca's side, so the girl thought. The main character, trembling, still could not believe that Her Holiness really came and supported her, even telling her the prophecy. This was unthinkable for the girl. When Madame Adelgate was driving with the girls to the mansion after the event, the main character was talking about what happened. She listened in surprise, adding that now it was clear to her why she was sitting all in tears. Rebecca, crying, said that she had never will forget this day. Charlotte explained that she and her mother were meeting the saint in this state. Her mother giggled, telling her daughter to imagine how happy she was. Suddenly, the heroine turned to Cher. She was surprised, joking that the girl had returned to reality. Rebecca remembered that she said that Carlyle also used her potion. She was wondering if it was true. When they heard about it, the women laughed. Then the main character thought it was a joke. But everything was wrong, because the Duke himself did not know that he was using this remedy. Rebecca could not understand anything. Then Charlotte explained that she had given one bottle of the potion to her brother's butler, who helps him with hair care, and it was he who applied it to him. The main character was shocked by what she heard, but the girl continued, saying that Carlyle most likely doesn't even know about it. Here the mother also joined in, adding that he probably doesn't know about the creams he uses. The daughter nodded her head in agreement, suggesting that the guy might not notice if the butler rubbed some salt on him. Adelgate switched gears at the main character, asking if she was upset because of Regina's words. After all, according to the woman, Rebecca's alchemy is amazing. She advised not to let people influence her, but it seems that the main character didn't even remember. Charlotte immediately asked her about this, after which the girl replied that she remembered that young lady, but she was so amazed by the saint that she completely forgot about this situation. A few days later, her son came to see Adelgate, wondering if she had called him. The guy's hair sparkled incredibly and looked incredible. The woman immediately took a liking to it. Then she added that the result was very good, which Carlyle did not understand, because he did not know at all that the product was tested on him. So he looked tense, but the woman changed the topic, saying that she had called him to discuss an interesting rumor. He replied that people always gossip about something, but his mother explained that now everything is different because the rumors concern his fiancée. The woman said that people are saying that Rebecca has the entire royal family behind her, who supports her, and she allegedly managed to push aside Haley, his original bride. The Duke was shocked by such news. Opening his mouth in surprise, Carlyle could not believe what he heard. But that was not all, because they also say that he admired Haley, but was forced to marry Rebecca due to pressure from the king's family. Then the guy fell into even more shock. The man suggested that the Cartius family was behind all this. Madame agreed with him, adding that his fiancée's reputation could not be harmed. Handing him an envelope, the woman invited the Duke to take Rebecca to the opera that evening. He did not understand why, suddenly, but his mother interrupted him, saying that she was telling him to take her on a date. Carlyle was a little puzzled by this proposal, but his mother explained that if they showed themselves more in public, the rumors would disappear completely, so he immediately agreed, because all this was for Rebecca, after which the woman was happy, saying that this was very important for the girl. The Duke asked if this was true. Then Adelgate shouted at her son, saying that the main character had finally realized the value of her talent, and now she needed to rethink her past failures and choose more products that could be commercialized. Madame said that she did not want the main character to be bothered by false rumors, so she asked her son to help, but the woman also said that Rebecca should not be told about this. Carlyle said that he understood everything, after which he stated that he would go to her right now, which the guy did, heading to the girl's workshop. Going inside, he saw smoke all around, but there was one thing in his mind. This place never ceases to amaze. When the man called out to the main character, she responded immediately, coming closer, while coughing from the smoke. The Duke asked if he was at the wrong time, but the girl immediately turned away, blushing, and she said that there was no need to worry and everything was fine. When they sat down on the chairs, Carlyle noticed that Rebecca had been very busy lately. Then she replied that Madame Adelgate asked her to think about the next product. After these words, he realized that the girl was now at a very important moment, and he himself was staring at her face. And then he said that she had soot on her face. The main character immediately began to try to rub it off, but could not find the right place. Then Carlyle offered her his help. Taking out a handkerchief from his jacket, he reached out to the girl's face, carefully wiping away the black mark on the heroine's nose, while smiling sweetly, which embarrassed her. But Carlyle pretended not to notice this, starting to say that his mother and sister had great hopes for her, while Rebecca sat terribly embarrassed, but still answered that they greatly overestimated her. although she really wanted to meet their expectations because they are very kind to her. Then, the Duke, taking an envelope from his jacket pocket, asked the girl if she would give him a chance to be kind to her. She looked at the envelope in surprise. Apparently, she was very pleased. On the appointed day, already collected, Carlyle cleared his throat and thought about how awkward he was now and how the butler had overdone his appearance. And a few seconds later, Rebecca was already coming down to him in an incredible outfit that literally shone on her. The girl apologized, saying that she didn't want to be waited for a long time. When she saw her bride, the man opened his mouth but quickly pulled himself together, smiling at her. He said that she was just in time, and then extended his hand to her and invited her to go. The main character carefully placed hers in his palm, agreeing, but her foot suddenly slipped out of the shoe. The girl awkwardly apologized, explaining that she very rarely wears heels, which is why she walks in them so awkwardly. But then the unexpected happened. Carlyle, sitting down on one knee in front of the heroine, carefully straightened her shoe. Rebecca's cheeks immediately flushed from the current situation, and he, raising his head, smiled radiantly at her, saying that now everything is in order, standing up. The man told the girl that if it was difficult for her to walk in them, then she could lean on him. Rebecca lowered her eyes to the floor and could not understand at all why her heart was beating so fast. Such feelings were similar to those she experienced when she was able to cut her own mana stone. When the couple arrived at the right place, the girl asked why opera because she thought he didn't like that. He smiled, saying that the heroine already knew him very well and confirmed her thoughts, after which he said that he really did not like this genre and did not remember the last time he visited her. But when his mother gave him tickets, Carlyle thought that Rebecca would want to go there with him to keep him company. The girl immediately thought about how cute the Duke was and then replied that next time she shouldn't force herself to go where he didn't like. Hearing the phrase about next time, the man immediately smiled, answering that next time you can find something that both of you will like and go on a date together. When their couple was noticed, people began to whisper, calling Carlyle romantic, because he brought his bride to the opera, suggesting that past rumors about them were lies. The guy immediately thought about it, looking at the main character. And then, turning around, he straightened her hair behind her ear, doing it carefully, telling the girl that she had it tangled while smiling sweetly. The people immediately began to squeal with delight at such a scene. Rebecca, surprised, suggested that when people react to your every move, it must be very exhausting. Carlyle exhaled, glad that he was finally understood. The main character replied that people apparently came not to watch the opera, but to watch them. But the man replied that he was sure that as soon as everything started, everyone would be looking at the stage. But for now, he suggested drinking wine. Having poured some into glasses, Rebecca drank a little, thinking that the taste was quite good, although it smelled very sharp. Carlyle looked at her in surprise, but after swallowing, the girl wrinkled her face, thinking about how terrible it was. And then again I felt a pleasant taste, not understanding whether it was tasty or not. She sat silently over the glass, savoring every drop, her cheeks already reddened from the slight degree. This amused the Duke, and he laughed loudly. After some time, an opera began, the name of which is The Love of a Nobleman, where the young lord lost his memory, but continued to live, receiving care from the commoners. Over time, the guy regained his memory and healed his tired heart, of course, falling in love with a beautiful commoner. A love story that transcended the boundaries of social status delighted many of the girls sitting in the audience. But alas, this was not something that Rebecca could have liked, because she, watching the scene, was bored and yawned. The girl could not understand how people thought this was interesting. When the end of the first act came, everyone in the hall clapped. Carlyle suggested that the bride go outside and get some fresh air, because they had time before the second act. She agreed, and they went out onto the balcony together. Smiling, the man noticed that Rebecca didn't really like the opera. She was surprised, not understanding how he knew about it. But the Duke explained that he found it boring too. This surprised the heroine. Carlyle explained that he did not choose her himself. Then the girl remembered that Madame Adelgate had bought the tickets, and the Duke mentioned that his mother was very fond of romantic operas, although at first glance you couldn't tell. With a smile on his face, the man recalled that when his father was alive, he and his mother were the happiest couple. The girl thought that their parents were, in fact, very similar. Remembering such moments, the couple stood in silence while the wind blew through their hair and the stars illuminated everything around them. Carlyle suggested they go home, since the opera was not particularly interesting. The girl tensed up, saying that they needed to show people that they were on good terms. She didn't want to let anyone down. Smiling, the Duke agreed with her because her position was more important to him than his own. after which they went inside, waiting for the start of the second act. Turning to the main character, the man asked if she liked the local wine. She replied that not really, but in general she likes wine, adding that she loves it as much as alchemy. The Duke said that he himself loves it, and he rarely drinks other alcohol. Leaning closer to him, Rebecca asked what his favorite wine was, after which Carlyle thought about it, but replied that he was not sure what there was, asking the girl the same question, to which she replied that her favorite was Desert Dawn. The guy asked if this was wine made from grapes grown in the desert. The heroine confirmed his guesses, joyfully remembering the taste and aroma of the drink. It was noticeable that she was crazy about it. They didn't have time to finish when the second act began, which also quickly and ended. After a while, the couple was already getting into the carriage to go to the mansion. Inside, the man noticed how tired the girl looked. She agreed with him, saying that the opera was really very boring. Carlyle said that he had heard about the current popularity of this opera, which is why there was a traffic jam of carriages. With these words, he looked out the window, seeing a row that could not pass. The trip would take a lot of time, so the Duke suggested continuing the conversation about guilt. Rebecca immediately, her eyes sparkling, agreed, saying that she started drinking it precisely because of alchemy, but the man noticed that everything was connected with her favorite pastime. The girl confirmed this, enthusiastically starting to talk about how alchemy was her favorite thing, and one day she could not sleep at night to finish the research, so the heroine decided to drink wine at night. Like her father, for better concentration, the man did not understand, because drinking usually makes you drowsy. But Rebecca explained that it was the other way around for the O'Clane people, saying that Rosaline brought her light wine that day, and that's where it all started. The girl was interested in how Carlyle fell in love with wine. He smiled and said that in his youth he was often sick. The girl gasped when she heard about it. He continued, saying that one day they brought him warm wine so that the Duke would take it as medicine, and when the man became a sword master, the drink became his best nighttime friend, because he has problems sleeping due to his heightened senses. When the couple arrived, the girl stretched wearily, saying that she had a lot of fun, before waving to Carlyle and saying goodnight as she prepared to leave. But he called out to her, she froze, and the guy, without saying anything, took her to someplace, and when the girl asked where they were going, he answered that she would like it. When the doors opened, Rebecca saw the wine cellar of the Rovinster family in front of her, and froze with delight, not knowing what to say, while Carlyle walked up to one of the shelves. Seeing the heroine's enthusiastic face, he confirmed her guesses, saying that in his hands was now the Dawn of the Desert, her favorite wine. Smiling at the girl, the man asked if she would like to join him and drink wine together in his room. The girl, looking at everything around her, declares that she is in the Duke's room for the first time, while he takes out glasses for wine and thinks that she is the first person he invited here at all. When Carlyle approached, putting the glasses on the table, Rebecca said that she thought that his room would be larger and more luxurious since he was a duke. He also explained that the ducal chambers were in another room and he rarely used them. The guy also said that he tried to change the room several times, but none of them were as comfortable as this one, and the girl could not understand why she changed the room so often. And then I remembered what Charlotte had said about annoying women who would sneak up on him in the middle of the night, and then everything fell into place. Carlyle said that after the demonstrative punishment of one of the ladies, the situation became more or less calm, and Rebecca understood how much this oppresses the man. When he wanted to open the bottle, the girl interrupted him, asking him to do it herself. The Duke looked at her in surprise, but still agreed. The heroine knew that according to the rules, a man opens the bottle, but she really wanted to open it herself. The girl's eyes sparkled with delight. Carlyle had no choice but to give it to Rebecca, but she joyfully shouted hooray, and the Duke asked not to tell his mother about this. The girl could not understand why. He explained that he did not want to listen to regrets about the fact that she could not raise a real gentleman. Upon hearing about this, the main character of the call laughed, saying that Adelgate had already raised the best son in the world, after which she began to open the bottle. Having pulled out the cork, the girl felt the incredible aroma of wine, which made her head spin while Carlyle watched her with a slight smile, and she again remembered her first bottle of this wine. It was from then on that she dreamed of opening this bottle in person. The Duke asked if the girl was happy. She, beside herself with joy, replied that she was, after which the man offered to do her the honor and pour the first glass. When the liquid was poured, the main character enthusiastically watched the bubbles on the glass and how the wine sparkled inside. Carlyle admitted that he was trying this wine for the first time. The girl could not believe it. and he explained that his father really liked this wine, and after his death, his mother collected all the possible bottles of this variety. This put the heroine in an awkward position, but the man explained that there is no need to worry because his mother is not upset about this. And then he added that if Rebecca said that she liked wine, then most likely she would give her the entire wine cellar. Smiling, the girl replied that it was not necessary, but now something else was important. To come up with something to drink for, and a couple I decided that it was worth drinking to ourselves. And then they slowly began to drink the drink, savoring every sip. After drinking, the girl's cheeks immediately took on a red tint and her body relaxed. Closing her eyes and smiling, she said that she was incredibly happy now. Carlyle expressed his opinion about the wine, saying that it really deserves all the praise, and now he understood why Rebecca and his father are fans of this drink. Suddenly, the Duke had a question for the girl. He was interested in her thoughtful appearance in the second act of the opera, and it did not seem that this was related to the performance. She, blushing, decided to ask what she was thinking about. And she did it directly, wondering if Carlyle liked someone. He immediately stopped drinking, and then generally choked, and the heroine continued to talk about what she knew about the huge number of his fans. But she was sure that the guy had clearly met worthy ladies on his way. The Duke was a little confused by such a question, but replied that he did not think that he had ever fallen in love. The girl, surprised, supported him. Having said that she was exactly the same, it was a little awkward to discuss, so Rebecca nervously stirred the wine in her glass, talking about how she had never had to love and fall in love before. She wondered if this made them weird. Man replied that it was quite possible. Carlyle admitted that he asked himself this many times and thought that it was because people were tormenting him and he was using them as an excuse to avoid problems. Rebecca remembered an opera where the hero gave up everything for love, adding that she didn't know if she could give up alchemy for someone. The man said that it was very similar to her, and the heroine continued, saying that she had concluded this a contract to keep the passion for alchemy alive. But now she is interested in something else, whether she will ever be able to give it up for the sake of the one she loves. Carlyle himself did not know the answer to such a question, saying that maybe yes, maybe no. The man decided to offer her a much better option than this. Looking into the girl's eyes, he said that he really wanted Rebecca to be able to love someone who could also protect her, without forcing her to choose one of the two. The main character thought this was a great idea. The man changed the subject, saying that it was much more pleasant to drink in company than alone, and the girl asked if she was too serious when she drank. He replied that no, saying that even under the contract, they can share any secret things. Then Rebecca offered to do it for him now. Closing his eyes, Carlyle said that in fact, he wanted to ask the main character something, but apparently did not know how to do it. She immediately agreed to answer, expecting a question. But the man explained that this was a rather awkward question, but the heroine still didn't mind. Then the Duke suggested that apparently he was used to women hanging on to him all the time, but he admired the fact that Rebecca treated him like an ordinary person. She listened to him, smiling. But that was not all, because the most important thing that interested him was whether the girl really didn't feel anything towards him, which is what he asked, and did it as seriously as possible. Upon hearing the question, the heroine did not understand what to answer. The girl, embarrassed, replied that she liked Carlyle. He couldn't believe it and decided to ask again, but she answered that it was true, and the man shared that when he was next to her, he felt like a simple person. Rebecca, hearing this, laughed, and then realized, after all, the Duke is a master of the sword, as well as a handsome and tall guy. Then Carlyle quietly laughed at the girl's reaction, and then asked her about the ideal in guys, which was very unexpected. The main character immediately looked thoughtful, and the Duke gave her options for suitable qualities. Noticing that she was having difficulties, he decided to ask if she had even thought about it. He felt sad, after which the man asked if the heroine really found him attractive, asking if she even saw the difference between attractive and unattractive. The girl tensed. And then quickly, pointing her finger at Carlyle, she blurted out that her ideal was him, adding that she considered anyone who looked like him attractive. Hearing this, the man laughed loudly. It was obvious that the girl had just come up with this, but she replied that this was not so, adding that she really had a type. Rebecca explained that she likes someone who can protect her love of alchemy. Such words surprised Carlyle very much, and the heroine smiled radiantly at him. Then they stretched. The girl said that she wanted to sleep, adding that apparently it was time for her to go to her room. The Duke told her that he would see her off. She replied that this was not at all necessary, but the guy insisted. They quickly reached the heroine's room. She opened the door and wished Carlyle good night, smiling. He responded in kind. But that was not all. The man asked if the girl would mind drinking together again someday. Blushing, the girl replied that she would not mind at all. Then she disappeared behind the door, leaving the Duke standing alone, with a smile on his face. It was clearly a good day. One day, Carlyle was guarding the Emperor when guests came to him. A man in glasses thanked His Highness for his help and acceptance of the Rowan kingdom. He replied with a smile that he did not think that he would visit him. The blonde said that he missed their wine and also that he had prepared a gift for them, pointing with his hand to the mana stones in huge quantities. The Emperor, seeing this picture, opened his mouth in shock because these stones were discovered in the region quite recently. The guy tried to pull himself together. The representative of the kingdom, Rowan, bowed to His Highness while he spoke about how their king was extravagant as before, to which he was told that this was nothing with the kindness he showed towards them. The Emperor immediately thought that there is something unclean here. After all, the Chancellor personally came to visit, although he is the younger brother of the king, and the entire delegation looks very friendly, so he expected a successful agreement. Carlyle thought that the import of quality stones would be good news. And I immediately thought about how Rebecca would react to this, because it would be useful for her. At dinner, the Emperor noticed that everything was going too smoothly, which he informed the Duke about, because everything cannot be so smooth. After all, they have complete advantage as the owners of such impressive mana stones. But all they want from the Emperor's exclusive export agreement is to reduce tariffs. Then Carlyle whispered to him that perhaps they just wanted to become allies. But the guy had bad feelings. He did not agree with him because there was no information on them and it was unclear what they were up to. Unexpectedly, the butler approached the Duke and the Emperor, saying that Chancellor Kaeliza had asked for a personal audience. Then the young ruler grinned, thinking that the doubts were not in vain, asking the servant to prepare their office and snacks with wine. But that was not all, because the Chancellor wanted to see Carlyle too. This confused the man. He did not understand why he was there, so he turned around to look at Kayleigh in person. He, in turn, smiled radiantly at the Duke, which further confused everyone. And when they arrived at the audience, the Emperor, crossing his arms over his chest, said that he knew that everything was going too smoothly, so he asked the man directly, but he asked if it seemed to His Highness that he was behaving too informally. When they were alone, the guy replied that they knew each other well enough, so he finally asked to say what was really needed. Finally, the Chancellor admitted that there really was a request. Carlyle asked if this was connected with him. He replied that yes, and then he added that more precisely with the Duke's fiancée, which caused considerable surprise among the men, especially her fiancé, while Kaeliza began to become noticeably nervous. As if I was embarrassed, he blurted out that we were talking about a hair product from Rebecca. Then the guys were even more surprised. While the man was talking about how the kingdom needed their potion, they opened their mouths and exclaimed in one voice. The Emperor quietly whispered whether the Chancellor was drunk, although he did not think at all that he would ask about such a thing, but he replied that he was not at all, after which he asked if he knew why they needed this remedy. The young ruler hesitated, answering that he knew, but the Duke did not know anything. He decided to ask about it. His Highness replied that this was top-secret information. But they still decided to reveal the secret, reporting that King Rowan began to rapidly go